Hello, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome back to the Dawn of Discussion podcast with your hosts, Guy and Ron. Here we are. Hello. Hello.
Yo,
Well, I'm just going
well,
to switch before anything to our topic of the day with the background, which is this. You might be asking why. Well, because as per usual, I have two little things that I want to say before we start. The first thing is, if you like this podcast, do yourself a favor and subscribe yourself on YouTube to this channel because literally it's way more reliable that way to actually see the post in time if I remember to schedule it. Uh, Also, it's just a little bit more convenient for you because we go live every Wednesday at 7:30. So
and
you know
to be fair, what does it cost you? Nothing.
nothing.
Costing you nothing. It's free,
It could cost you,
but it doesn't.
but it doesn't. So
So,
so you enjoy that.
yeah, if
Enjoy how
you,
free it is. Now, Guy, I need to direct you to actually look at the stream for a bit because we actually have a video sponsor today. It's actually slightly different than usual. Um,
okay.
but this actually I'm gonna turn off the watermark because it's a little bit intrusive. Here we go. You probably were thinking that there wasn't another way that I could one up my constant plugin of this album, but
Sorry, what's the
here we are.
SpongeBob leave?
In
My
actual
eyes.
several failed attempts at commercials, here we are. It's called Yes No Meh. It's coming out tomorrow. Pre-save and pre-order links are going to be in the description. And project name Ordinary. It's the same as Dave Grohl's first Foo Fighters record, or Josh Homme's first Queen of the Stone Age album, or Bruce Wayne's first picture album after the age of 9. They've all done it themselves. So this might be it for me. Really hoping this might work out. Thank you guys for listening to the podcast. And over to you, Guy. Do you have anything good to mention for this week? You have no idea how much walking I've done to get that video done.
Oh, I'm sure it was. I'm sure it was a very strenuous
Do you know how
task.
difficult it is in this area to find a spot that is completely quiet without any people so you can just quietly record some promotional videos for your fucking album? Like, I walked an hour until I found some quiet woods, filmed whatever I needed with regular breaks because people were walking past, and then I had to walk an hour back.
Oh, okay.
Anyway, my album's coming out tomorrow. You know what it is. Just links in the description and everything.
Yep.
Anyway, as I've asked in the video, is there anything you want to bring up before we officially start?
Yes. Uh, last week. Last week. Yeah, last week.
Hmm.
Uh, it finally came out after people asking for the film for what has now been 3 years. The Snyder cut of Justice League, or as the film is titled, Zack Snyder's Justice League,
Yes.
which I mean, he's not fucking Tom Clancy or Sid Meier's. I don't think he has the right to put his name before the title of anything. Man, if
I
any
mean, he
Snyder
does
fan,
it anyway.
he does it anyway. Well,
It's to avoid confusion. You know what it is.
yeah, but we've both seen the film. We both have formulated our views and opinions of it. But before this, a quick disclaimer: this is not a review. We are not film critics. This
Nope.
is just two DC comic book fans, and I have to stress that film lovers and cinema goers,
Sure.
and
Whenever it's
DC
available.
comic book slash DC specifically comic book fans, giving our thoughts and opinions on the film, the fans, and whether we liked it or not. This once again is not a review. This is just our personal opinion of it.
Yep. And you know that this isn't a review because we're not going to give it an easy 10. So,
No,
get it because most
which
reviews on
apparently
IMDb
every
are
review at
ridiculous.
this point is
Yeah.
giving it.
Honestly, I've
Yeah.
seen a couple of reviews this week and I've been a little bit disappointed in the world, but fair
I
enough.
mean,
Maybe
I was expecting it. I was expecting that.
Yeah, but at the same time, it's like I kind of want to believe that a lot of people are seeing something in that film that maybe you and I are just not seeing.
To be fair, like it's on just quickly before we get into what people have been saying about it, let's just quickly talk about
Sure.
what we thought of it. I personally enjoyed the film. I do think it is too long, but I can happily sit down and watch, but at the same time, I know for a fact that if this had come out in the cinema, it would have made even less money probably, because the first one already wasn't pulling people to the cinema, and this one, with a 4-hour running time and people having short attention spans and not willing to sit in a theater for any longer than usually 2 hours, unless it's Infinity War, the absolute climax to an entire 10-year project, no one's gonna go and
Yeah.
see it, you know? No one.
Yeah.
But, yeah.
Well, I'll be honest. Uh, from a scale between, um, let's say, what is a really terrible film?
Mega Shark versus Giant Octopus.
Well, I haven't I haven't seen that one, so I can't judge.
Fair enough.
Bas-
Any one of the Transformer films, how about that?
okay,
After the first one.
on a
After the first
scale of watching Age of Extinction on repeat, um,
which actually was also very long, wasn't it? From what I can
for
recall.
yeah, versus watching The Room on repeat. This film was basically the equivalent of watching Age of Extinction once. Like you can kind of, like if you hadn't seen the previous, if you, especially if you haven't seen the one from 4 years ago, um, you can get enjoyment out of it.
Yeah,
Genuinely, it's not a very good film, and
yeah,
you don't really look forward to the next one necessarily. I mean, you kind of do because you feel like you have to because of the branding and
yeah,
everything. But it's about that for me.
yeah.
It's
I think
not saying that it is the same level as Age of Extinction. I will say
yeah,
I'd rather watch Age of Extinction. I know, I know,
okay,
but I
okay,
do.
okay, fair enough. Um, for anyone who is watching this, I'm not of the same mind. I prefer this much more to Age of Extinction, and I don't think by any stretch of the means that it's a good film. I think it's I'm even struggling to say as an actual impartial viewer
You're not
who
impartial though.
is not. Well, that's the thing. I'm trying to say if it wasn't a personal opinion, if I was giving people like, oh, what would they think of it? If I said to them, look, if you like Zack Snyder, you'll like the film, but if not, then don't watch it. That's basically what I would say to
Yeah.
people. And it would be the same sort of thing with Michael Bay films. Like, you know, most Michael Bay films, I say, unless you like Michael Bay or mindless action, don't watch it. But that's a big
Yeah.
difference though,
It's like
because
a
for
cult
Michael
thing,
Bay,
isn't it?
yeah, for Michael. But the thing is, with Michael Bay films, I would easily say to people, if you're looking to go to a cinema just to have a relaxing time and just eat some popcorn and chill with a mate, or
Yeah.
just have nothing to do, a Transformer film may not be the worst thing.
Um, mm,
Whereas,
I don't think it's
whereas,
quite definable like that because obviously not the point. But like Michael Bay is more like if you want to go to the cinema, much like you would go to a theme park. This is it.
yeah,
If you
exactly.
want a relaxed film, go see a chick flick, and then just don't pay attention to the film. It's
That's
nice
very
to have in
true.
the
If you,
background. Chat. People will shush you. Whatever. Go see
yeah,
Instant Family. I don't know.
yeah, because that's
If
a
you want an
fair
action
point.
film with Mark Wahlberg, then don't see Instant Family.
That's a fair
Uh,
point because yeah, Transformers is like a theme park. So I'm saying if you want
yeah,
something action packed that's mindless that you can just eat popcorn and watch, Transformers is your film. Whereas
yeah,
weirdly, I wouldn't say the same thing about Zack Snyder's Justice League
absolutely not.
because it is the issue is I think there are some great action set pieces. Some, not all of them are great.
Sure, sure.
There are one or two I watch and think those were very well done, but the rest I think the ending fight sequence for me is just it's so
Yeah,
unclimactic. And to be fair, I had the same issue with the first film. I thought the first one, the final fight sequence, was also equally unclimactic.
because it didn't really mean much in the end.
Nah, it didn't.
Like, neither film really convinced me why they needed Superman, because they seem to be doing pretty well. It's just the difference between like beating Steppenwolf and beating Steppenwolf just a little bit quicker.
I didn't get. That's
In theory, I don't think they actually needed him. Either case.
because the issue I was have with that, if Superman had not been there, because I can't remember the exact situation with the original Joss Whedon cut, but in the Snyder cut, Steppenwolf was like this close to cutting Cyborg in half with his axe, and it was only until Superman did the whole not impressed thing
Yeah,
that he failed. If he
Superman did a
had,
similar thing in the
he
Joss
did a
Whedon
similar
film.
thing, yeah.
Yeah,
But the point is there, if Steppenwolf had killed Cyborg, that's it. The unity happens. The Justice League cannot stop it from happening because they need Cyborg to be the one to stop it. Without him, they can't win.
yeah,
And Steppenwolf would have killed him if Superman had not intervened.
yeah. I guess.
It's a small thing, I think, and in the end, I think it's is it big enough of a reason to say, oh, maybe Wonder Woman couldn't have, shaken herself up and launched herself up there.
Yeah. To be fair, Wonder Woman felt incredibly underpowered.
Yeah, I think you and I both had that issue, and I think
Yeah,
it's an issue with both cuts. I think both versions of Wonder Woman are very
yeah, but just Whedon's cuts
underpowered.
didn't. We'll talk about this because it's one of
Yeah,
the
we'll talk
things on
about it
our
now.
list. Which would you like to introduce the list or should I?
You because you read the list and
All
remember
right.
I
So
remember.
what we're going to do today, instead of just reviewing the film, this is one of, as far as I'm aware. So, like, do correct me if this is not true. But as far as I'm aware, historically, it's only ever happened twice that a film has re-released uh, a film in a completely different version
Yeah,
because the director wasn't involved in the original final cut.
yeah,
There's been cases where a new cut of a film has been released, such as Apocalypse Now, and pretty much actually any
and
Francis Ford Coppola film, Blade
and
Runner.
Blade Runner. Yep,
Yeah, but
that's
this
by
is
the
different.
studio and director's choice. Yeah,
Yeah,
they were
this
both
is
there.
different. This is the director wasn't involved in the original film, so I
The
think
actual,
historically it only happened twice, being
yeah.
Superman 2 and this film.
Weirdly, both DC films. Curiously,
So what we're going
but
to
yeah,
do, instead of just giving a straight up review or straight up like explaining what was good or what was bad or whatever, we've decided we're
yeah,
going to pick particular parts of the films that we're going to directly compare to each other. I've made a
yeah.
list, um, and it's this list. It's a spreadsheet. I don't usually like spreadsheets, but it's you work with what you have.
Yeah,
And very simply, we have a couple of categories, and we are going to vote. If you vote Joss Whedon's cut, you get a JW, and if you vote Zack Snyder's cut, you get
you
a
get an S.
ZS.
Yes, S.
And then at the end, we'll see who clearly preferred one version, going by like the numbers game, and which version we have decided to be the better one due to agreement.
Actually, here's one I would even say. Um,
Yes.
if there's a point, because I think I can already see maybe one or two categories where I would say neither. So there
Um,
should be a thing where like or
we'll put a
both.
line. We'll put a line.
Yeah, we'll put a line. We'll either say I would just put either
Oh,
B for both or N for neither, because I think there are a
well,
few points.
no,
Well,
because it's a question of which one is better. So
okay.
you can't say both are better because that's not how competition works.
Well, that's the thing. We're not doing which one is better, because once again, that's very subjective. I think we're saying which one we
Which one
prefer.
you prefer? Sure, but like, okay, so okay, gotcha.
Because
Okay,
once again, if we're saying which one is better, that
okay. So
that
if
you do more
so, let's
borderline.
say then if you liked both, I'll put a plus, and if
Yeah,
you liked neither, I'll put a minus.
that's smart. That's smart.
Right.
It's this yeah, that both had a positive there and both had a negative there. Yeah, good idea. All
So
right.
starting off, uh, let me just read out the categories for you real quick, and then we'll dive into them. We've got story and writing because those two need to be distinguished.
Yeah,
Uh, cinematography, color grading, editing, score, CGI, and then all the separate characters: Cyborg, Flash, Aquaman, Wonder Woman, Superman, Batman, and Steppenwolf. Then the overall
yeah,
experience,
yeah,
and anything else that we might think needs to be mentioned about one or the other cut.
Yeah.
Let's start from the beginning, the story. For the
In
most
the
part,
end,
sorry, go
the
on.
same. I was going to
Yeah,
say, for the most part, yeah, they're the same story. Exactly the same.
yeah.
One's extended, one is shortened.
The real question is, who told the story better?
Personally, for me, simply because it was slightly more flushed out and I understood one particular side of the story a little bit better, I preferred Snyder's cut.
Could you elaborate on that?
Um,
Like, which side is this?
Steppenwolf's. Because
Um,
before, and someone made a very good distinction, and I think it's a valid one. In the Joss Whedon cut, he is evil just for the sake of being evil, which I think is dull, uninteresting. All films, Marvel films are guilty of this as well. But at the same time, in this one, there was a display that he was trying to redeem himself for something he has
yeah.
done.
Okay, so
To a
that's.
guy who, yes, is just evil for the sake of being evil. But
I think that's more of a character thing than an overall story thing.
yeah,
I don't think I'm not gonna take that into consideration. Also, it's worth mentioning. I'll get to it when we get to Steppenwolf. Um, basically, you can take it into consideration if you want for a story. I'm not gonna do that because I think that's too character specific. I understand
because
that the motivation of the main antagonist is important.
yeah.
All right, fuck it. I'll take it into consideration.
'Cause I think the thing
As
is you have to at some because the characters
yeah.
are part of the story. You can't
So
just say, "Oh, it's just a character thing." No, characters
okay, fine.
influence what happens in the
So
story.
Steppenwolf's original motivation
Yeah,
was pure hunger, right? He was evil for the sake of evil, but he specifically attacked Earth because that's where the mother boxes were left behind. In
yeah,
both films, I will say I don't understand why their mother boxes were left behind. That is a stupid mistake that you can make as a villain to leave your most powerful weapon behind.
yeah.
But they did
And it's
it.
not like it would be hard for like two flying cronies, which all the parademons could do, fly to just snatch them up and bring them back
Literally.
onto the ship. But to be fair, that's
Literally.
once again going more.
So so
Yeah,
the mother boxes inherently between the two films are different. Because the mother
yeah,
boxes in Joss Whedon's version are all linked to each other and are
yeah,
all calling out to Steppenwolf to come pick him up. That's why he keeps saying like, "I'm here for you, mother." You know,
yeah,
he's there because the mother boxes are calling out to him.
yeah,
Um, so as far as that goes, I I don't think it's great character motivation,
yeah.
but for me
But it is.
personally, as someone who's just watching the film, it's good enough.
Yeah,
Like in this case, I'm not like again, it's too character specific to say which one I prefer. I'll do that later. For now,
yeah,
I'll say this version is good enough to to be to be in consideration for a story.
yeah,
I'll be honest. When I was watching both, I watched both versions day after day.
yeah,
First the Zack Snyder cut, and then the original one again after maybe not having seen it for like 4 years, 3 or
yeah,
4 years. Um, I think Joss Whedon's version needed to have an extended cut
yeah.
because he went through the actions really fucking quick.
He did. He sort of jumped from point A to
Yeah,
point B to point C to point
but
D a bit
but
too
Zack
quickly.
Snyder's version was way too long
Yeah.
for the
There needs
story
to
that he
be,
was trying to tell.
you know what? Fuck it. Justice for Joss Whedon. Release
Justice
the
for
Joss
Joss
Whedon
Whedon.
cut.
Release the Joss Whedon extended cut, damn it.
We
Um,
get to see it in just a completely different film with a
yeah.
completely different lineup.
Now, to kind of boil it down to the basics, the story
Oh,
is for the most part the same,
yeah.
but it is slightly different.
It is slightly different, but here's the thing. I would even say because it is very Steppenwolf specific, I would be willing to say because both stories are virtually identical, it's sort of almost an NA that you can't.
No, I don't. I don't agree. Because when I was watching it, this is the distinction of the film, right?
Yeah,
Um, the original one, the story is that um, the mother boxes are starting to call out to Steppenwolf after Superman has died, and Batman is
yeah,
investigating this and is trying to find any means possible to defeat Steppenwolf. At some point, he does realize that if he can bring back Superman, that would work.
Yeah.
People are constantly like telling him it's because of his guilt, but more than anything, it's because he kind of wants to weaponize him. Um,
Yeah.
and so basically, throughout the entire film, they're trying to find the mother boxes to make sure that Steppenwolf doesn't get them.
Hmm.
No, sorry, they're not trying to find the mother boxes. They're because the mother boxes get picked up so quickly. They're pretty much not really part of the story anymore in that regard.
Yeah.
It's just oh, they're a part of this whole thing. So we have
Yeah.
to come together and like, you know, save the
Well,
world.
yeah.
The Zack Snyder's cut is very different in that regard. In
Yeah.
that regard, it's Superman is dead, and Darkseid sees this as a perfect opportunity to get the mother boxes back. So
Yeah.
they start reactivating, and
Yeah.
Steppenwolf comes and picks them up one by one. But along the
No,
way, he finds out that
the
it's not just
anti-life
the mother.
equation.
Yes, and that changes significantly because now instead of just being a destruction of the Earth kind of thing, it is an invasion kind of thing,
Yeah.
and I think that makes it slightly different.
Because I'll say sort of 2 points. I'll get to the second one,
Sure,
first one in just a second, rather than going to the second point. Um, but interestingly, I don't think Darkseid or Steppenwolf even knew the mother boxes were on Earth. I thought that because Superman
they lost
died,
them
the mother
there.
box. Yeah, but they didn't remember they left them there. Because if you remember when Steppenwolf was talking to Darkseid, it's like, oh, remember the world that we couldn't defeat? And he's like, yes, the great defiance, whatever it is. Is like, yes, it's here. It's like, wait, do you not remember that the thing you were looking for this entire time, the anti-life
Yeah, it's
equation, is
starting
the
to lose
where
points for me
you?
on writing now. That's
Yeah,
fucking sloppy. It's like,
that is very
hey,
sloppy. So we'll get
hey,
to that. We'll
remember
get to
those
that.
very powerful boxes that we had like 5,000 years ago, or even 2,000 years ago if it was earlier? Yeah, where did we leave them? I don't know, but
Yeah,
they're probably like car keys.
I'm
Like at
like,
some point they'll just like
because
they're in your
there's no
pocket or
reference
something. It's
to
like I don't have
Darkseid.
fucking pockets.
Yeah,
There's no
yeah,
pockets on Apocalypse. You son of a bitch, die.
because there's no reference to Darkseid losing memories. It's like, oh, he's hurt. It's like, okay, but he didn't take any head trauma. How could he lose his memories like
No.
this? This seems like a big thing. But anyway,
Well, he did
that's a
pass
writing
out.
thing. That's a writing thing. So yeah,
Yeah.
going back to the story, the one thing I felt they did better with Joss Whedon's cut, and we've agreed on this, is the fact that yes, as you mentioned, Batman meets the parademons very early on, so he is aware there is an invasion coming. Whereas with Zack Snyder's cut, there's no reason for him to believe people go. Oh, but in the Dawn of Justice extended cut, you see Lex Luthor talking with Steppenwolf. It's like, yes, but that's Lex Luthor talking with Steppenwolf.
Yeah.
There's no Batman doesn't know. It's like, oh yeah, but then remember in the prison scene, you know, he's like, the bell has been rung and he's coming. It's like that's a reference to Darkseid, and then I'll be like, yeah, but how does Batman know that's a reference to Darkseid's coming? Anyone could
Yeah.
be coming. He could be saying, oh, that could be Deathstroke is coming for you, or the Joker's coming for you, or
Yeah.
I'm coming. Like there's
Or
there's very little on that to go
or
on.
some very scary boxer man. I don't
Yeah,
know.
there's no reference to the
Yeah.
fact that there's an invasion coming. That was, and we both agreed that
That was
sequence.
bad because literally he just shows up for Aquaman. And he's like, I'm putting a team
Yo,
together. Yeah, but
who you
why?
think you want to be on my
Why are you
team?
putting a team together? It's like, oh,
Yeah,
because you're special. Okay, great, cool.
yeah,
It
yeah,
sure. It's
because
literally at that point it becomes literally the same as um, Larry David
yeah,
doesn't like it when you go up to him and go, oh, do you know what? I'm also Jewish because he's like, so what? Are we meant to be friends now because we're both Jewish? Is this the
yeah,
thing?
yeah,
It's like why would he make a team together just because they're special?
yeah. Because I
For all
think
he
also
knows, Aquaman is evil as well.
as we talked about. God damn it, he's interrupting me. See, it's the problem with passionate fans. There's either passionate love against it or passionate hatred against it, and I feel you're borderline on the passionate hatred now. Your silence says it all.
He asked me to
But
stop talking to you, so make up
uh,
your damn mind, woman.
but the fact that when Batman is getting the parademon and figuring out shit about it, that was very much ripped from the comic books.
Yep.
I will say my one issue with that sequence, and it's very small and not enough to make me say oh, it should be just taken out, is the fact that when the parademon explodes, it's like the three boxes there. I'm like, so what? It had three mother boxes inside it. why would there be an outline there? But once again, it's like a small detail.
It
that I
could be an
thought.
imprint because basically in Zack Snyder's Justice League, they could sense the mother boxes. In
That's
Joss
true.
Whedon's Justice League, that was never explicitly said, so we have to assume that they don't.
Sorry
So in
to go back to that review that we read. Oh, it's not logical. Makes no scientific sense, even with their comic book logic. God, I hated that review.
I love the reviews for this film because they're all so fucking terrible. Anyway,
There's not.
the story, we're gonna have to make a decision. Which story did you prefer?
I did prefer Snyder's.
Okay.
If not by a small amount, like a very tiny thing. But that's it.
I'm gonna
Was it neither
do
for you?
something. I'm gonna do something very straight. Yeah, it is neither.
I'm not surprised. I was this close to saying
gonna-
neither, but I think
I'm
there's
kidding.
one.
It's both, but that's because I don't mind the story in itself. I think the story is quite cool. I have no problem with it, and the story is more than anything kind of identical. It's how it is presented that is slightly different, which is the
Fair enough.
writing.
Fair enough.
And when it
I'll
comes
give
to
you that.
when it comes to writing, I have slightly clearer preferences.
For me, it's a negative for both. To be honest,
Really,
I don't care.
right off the bat.
It just straight off the bat, I have massive problems with both of the writing.
Okay, do you know what?
I
What
think
I have
both
to
have
say?
crappy dialogue.
I
I
have to
think
do
both
BNN.
have holes in them. I think that both have massive issues that I can't get past.
Fair enough, but I'd have to say if I prefer one, I'm gonna say Joss Whedon's
Fair enough.
because it was slightly more digestible and it was less pretentious. That's all I'm going by.
I'd give you that. Yeah, I think I'd give you. Whereas
Also, like basically, I will say the Joss Whedon version, right, was just under 2 hours, and
yeah,
I do know that the film was meant to be no longer than 2 hours, so that was like the
yeah.
hard limit. Joss Whedon could have paced the film so much better if he hadn't wasted time just making all these useless jokes that weren't even that good.
It's so sorry. The Justice League running time for the first one is 2 hours and 1 minute.
Oh, well, there you go. But that's
So
including credits.
yeah. So
Yeah.
it's barely
Yeah.
over 2 hours.
So I would say literally there's so many jokes in there that could have just been gotten rid of, especially because they're weird character choices.
The ones for Batman, I think we both agreed were the worst ones in general.
Yeah,
There's
where
just
the one where he goes, yeah, there's definitely something wrong
something's
there.
definitely bleeding now. Yeah, and
Yeah.
then
That wasn't a
like
joke. That was just bad. That was just
that was more
goddamn awful.
that was bad acting because of bad direction.
Yeah.
Let's be honest. But yeah, that almost felt like a Star Wars prequel moment where you think,
It
oh
did.
no, why?
No.
Why?
Actually, no. Prequel things are different.
They are different. Actually, that's fair. They are different. But yeah.
Anyway, um,
Sorry,
having yeah,
just quickly explain my reasoning for the writing and why I think it's neither. I think, as you said, the Snyder cut is pretentious, but I find the Joss Whedon one is just there's not enough in it to make it feel full for me. Writing wise, I feel like there are points where I think,
yeah.
okay, you had, because it's just over 2 hours with credits, and you had like an extra, probably I'd say even 15 minutes to tack onto this to just stretch it out a little bit longer, writing wise, and fill in
Well, no,
any
you could just get rid of the jokes.
or get rid of the jokes.
There
Yeah.
were a ton of jokes that just didn't work for me at all.
Yeah.
Like for instance, the scene where Bruce Wayne meets Barry Allen, and then basically when Barry Allen says, "Stop, wait there, I'm in," and he goes, "Really?" and he goes, "Basically, I need friends." And like in the Snyder cut, it just ends there. But in the Whedon one, he just goes on a weird tirade about brunch.
No, he does in the Snyder one as well.
No, he doesn't. Does he? I
He
don't think
does.
he does.
He does.
I don't remember him doing that.
He does. He does. Because I think in the end it gets lost in the background as sort of Bruce Wayne
That
is
should
sort of
have been
having.
cut. That is really bad.
I think no wait, is it? I can't remember now. Actually, it may not
Literally,
be.
he
I
goes,
can't.
"I need
I
to
may
get friends," and he
remember.
goes like what is brunch? Like, you
Yeah.
stand in line for an hour to get lunch.
Yeah, actually,
It's
I may
like
be misremembering that.
no,
I may
I
be
don't.
mis
I don't think it was in the Zack Snyder cut.
No, I think no, you know what it was? I was watching comparisons for both side by side, and
I
yeah,
was as well, and in it, that was explicitly the point that because of that scene, with all the
yeah,
pacing beats that were there in the Zack Snyder cut, it came out to be just as long.
yeah,
But it could have been a shorter scene
yeah,
for Joss
yeah,
Whedon if he just didn't have the whole brunch thing, and it would have been it would have been a fine scene. Even though, anyway, that's a different thing again. That's editing more than anything. But for writing, there were bits that are more character moments than anything that I will get back to later again, but I will mention now because they are writing things. Flash, I think, was funnier in the Zack Snyder cut, weirdly enough,
yeah,
because there were slightly more kind of awkward jokes with him. But he worked better in the Joss Whedon cut because he was initially very scared of doing things, and Batman had to like pep talk him. And
yeah. I
that was
think that was
something that I think is really important for Flash because he had never done this sort of thing before, and
yeah,
also he's very young.
yeah. I think that's I think I agree with you on that. And it's an interesting note for both films. It felt like the star of the show for the Josh Whedon cut was Aquaman. You know, he felt like the one everyone's like, "Whoa, Aquaman's actually kind of cool," as it turns out.
I didn't have that. Well,
I
yeah,
got that.
I that feeling, yes, but I don't think he was the star of the show.
I think it was more he's the person most people got attention. He got the most attention in terms of
Probably.
audience reaction. Going, oh, you know, he's actually kind of cool. Whereas I
If
think at this one, I think widely regarded the Flash was the best character in the Snyder cut. I think actually most people would argue
I
it's
think he was the
Aquaman, but
best
I,
character in both cuts, to be honest with you.
yeah, I think
I
I agree. I
I'll be
think
honest.
Flash. But
I loved Aquaman in the Snyder cut a lot, but I think Flash just stood out a little bit more for me.
I will say, and I guess this is a bit of writing and a bit of character, but one thing I did like in the Snyder cut is when both Aquaman and Flash are both sort of in the, you know, at the monument thing, sort of embedded, and Aquaman just looks over and points at Flash. I thought that's actually kind of funny because it's just such a. It's just imagine you're Barry Allen seeing this muscle mass just grumpily go, "You," you know, so that felt good.
Yeah.
But yeah,
Well, that's for writing anyway. We can elaborate on this probably later on.
yeah,
But it's
we'll
best to
get more
move.
into it with
Yeah,
characters. Yeah,
it's best to move on to cinematography, which is not how you say it, or whatever.
cinematography,
Cinematography.
cinematography,
So,
cinematography.
to make a clear distinction, cinematography and color grading are very different. It
Yeah.
is worth mentioning the cinematographer for both cuts is the same one.
It's just how they were both done in post actually kind of
Yep.
makes an interesting difference because as we've talked about, one is designed for IMAX and the other is the more classic
Yeah.
just
So
cinema.
this is worth mentioning. Um, so to kind of elaborate on this concept, because apparently this is not a thing that is known among the internet. Cameras shoot in a certain format, and the format is dependent on the settings that you have in the camera and the lenses that you use. Now
Yeah,
there's different kinds of lenses that you can use, but the most popular ones, and I think the most common ones, are spherical lenses and anamorphic lenses.
yeah,
The difference is that spherical lenses are basically the common circular shaped ones.
yeah,
And literally as they hit the sensor, that's how they get like registered into the camera. Anamorphic lenses are oval shaped. So as they come into as they hit the sensor, they will be squeezed in. And later, when you go into edit, you will unsqueeze them, essentially making them the widescreen format that they usually are. So I think what we now know as 16:9 used to be done on anamorphic lenses, but as
yeah,
cameras got more significant because it became more of um like a more common um screen size or screen ratio rather, sensors have been made to accept that from spherical lenses. But we still use anamorphic lenses because they have like there's all kinds of essays on the internet of why using analog cameras. Anyway, uh, for this for IMAX, there's a similar thing where you can have different types of IMAX. You can have the widescreen IMAX, which is I think 185, and that's just what we perceive as 16:9, like the regular size thing. You don't really have widescreen IMAX. Generally, that doesn't really. So you know how like sometimes when the film's like has black bars on top and bottom with
That
I
physically hurt you to
that's
say.
that no that's the layman's terms. Because in fact, it's not black bars. It's just devoid of information because the sensor only picked up whatever is actually on screen at that point. Like the filmmaker didn't slap black bars on there like a film student would. Like
Yeah,
they literally just didn't shoot that bit because
yeah,
anamorphic lenses would squeeze under that to give it that look.
yeah.
So because it's not made for a 16:9 computer screen or TV screen, it's made for the
I'm
2.35 on one screen in the cinema.
yeah,
Um, but IMAX is different in that sense because it's made for a bigger screen with a completely different format.
yeah.
So it would shoot in, and I really want to say this right, 1.85, which looks like 16:9 but isn't. But because of that, anything that is filmed on an IMAX camera like that, um, in the true format that it is, if you play it back on the computer screen, it pretty much just fills your entire screen with no
Yeah.
problem. Um, and then there's another format, which I think is 143 on one, and that is like the almost square looking IMAX format that I think a lot of filmmakers like Christopher Nolan really like. Yeah, like when you think about Dunkirk, you know, it goes like that pretty much the entire film through, or like that on DVD releases.
Yeah.
Um, so the
Long story
reason
short,
the reason why this Zack Snyder cut is perceived as 4:3 screen ratio is because it was filmed entirely in that IMAX format. Um, what that means is that in every single shot that you see, that's that looks like that in the Joss Whedon cut, but is slightly more squeezed in. That's because the editor in the edit had cropped that frame off so it would fit the format that Zack Snyder was after. Sorry, that Joss Whedon was after. I think the main reason why they would have done that is because for the reshoot, Joss Whedon had opted for the slightly more regular format IMAX, which for a
yeah,
superhero film I don't see why you would do that because I think it's best to capture the entire
yeah, the
um,
entire sort of
yeah.
thing, essentially, yeah,
But he did that, so he must have cropped Zack Snyder's shots to fit accordingly.
yeah, yeah.
So
Because that way, I think
yeah,
in the end, that way you can distinguish what was his and what wasn't. Because if
yeah,
it cut between certain scenes and it went back to Snyder's way of cinematography, everyone would have gone, "Oh, that's a Snyder scene. Oh, that's a Joss Whedon scene. Snyder scene, Joss Whedon scene. Snyder scene,
exactly,
Joss Whedon."
exactly. It would have made it
So yeah,
more obvious. Which, by the way,
which scene?
I'd like to take this opportunity to say, when I was watching it on Monday, I didn't feel that way at all. I didn't feel like it was a Frankenstein film.
What?
It may
Joss
the
Whedon.
yeah, it may
Hmm.
not have been great, and but knowing which shots were in Zack Snyder's version and which ones weren't, it didn't
Yeah,
feel like none of the shots really felt out of place in that way.
no,
They felt out of place in many other ways.
yeah,
In the fact that I'd really rather be watching something else. But
because
as far as
I
like
think
yeah, in
sorry,
relative
having I think
sense, yeah,
we spent a long time sort of discussing lenses, so I think we should get to the verdict now of which one we preferred and
just
which
for the
one we
fact
didn't.
that when you see Zack Snyder's cut and you
Yeah,
see like that extra information on top and bottom, or like just on the bottom or just on the top,
yeah,
I feel that Zack Snyder deserved this for me
yeah. I'd agree with that. Yeah,
because it's clear that what he was going for, it's a pity vote more than anything for me. It's clear that what he was going for was a grand cinema experience, and he didn't get that. So it's a pity vote
yeah.
for me more than
I
anything.
think the thing is as well, and I'll say this. I think the thing is the why. Ultimately, I think cinematography is something people can talk about for these films. I think in the end, ultimately, I think the one thing weirdly both films have done right, no one walked out of the cinemas ever talking about the cinematography. They walked out talking about the actual film and particularly the story, which is the first thing your film should always make you do.
Cinematography was one of the few things not hated.
Not hated, yeah. That was the one of the things that got left in the foreground thing.
Yep. Uh,
Anyway,
moving on to color grading. I'm not.
I
I'm
know
not.
which
I'm
one
not
you
gonna.
preferred.
There's no discussion for me.
I will say this, I agree with you. I
There
prefer
we go.
Joss Whedon's.
I'm sorry, but
I
I know that everyone loves the dark and gritty DC. I
It's
don't
not
care.
Superman, it's not Flash, it's not Wonder Woman, it's not Aquaman.
Yeah.
It's Cyborg, sure. Okay, if you want to make an say, oh, maybe he should be a bit tough and gritty, I think fine, whatever. Cyborg is a meh character, doesn't even have his
Yeah,
own
but
fucking
even
comic.
then,
For Christ's sake.
have some little color. You know,
The
his
only
chest radiates red. He's got a red eye. He's got a blue forehead eye. Like
yeah,
at least those can
the
have some color.
I think the only time Zack Snyder's color grading makes sense is when it's Batman.
Yeah, but
And weirdly, I'd even make an argument saying that weirdly in a Justice League film, you could almost make an argument that there should be two different types of color grading. There should be one for the team and then the individual members.
yeah.
The
So
team
that's
should be
Joss Whedon did do that,
yeah,
or
because
did
that
ask for that anyway.
I think we for this is more of a I wouldn't say it's like you with the pity thing, but it's more I prefer the color grading, but at the same time,
Yeah,
I'm never going to base my complete consensus or bias on the film whether I enjoyed the color grading.
I'm okay with you saying that,
Yeah,
but this thing for my overall consensus was a make or break thing because I really didn't like the color grading in Man of Steel and Batman vs Superman.
yeah,
I really didn't like it, and honestly, at some point, like I know for a fact that there were a lot of people on the internet who also didn't like it because they made a restored version of Man of Steel where they basically
put more color
regraded
into
the entire film and made it look colorful. And I
it. Yeah.
actually felt the film, um,
Was slightly more hopeful and Superman-like in a
yeah, it
sense.
it it
Yeah,
made it a better film for me, literally
because
by just making the colors a little bit brighter.
I think because we have discussed this before, but a lot of this is to blame weirdly on Nolan's Dark Knight trilogy. Because when
Oh
that
yeah,
came
hundred
out,
percent.
everyone thought, "Oh, tough and
Who do you
gritty,
think
that's
is
what
executive
superheroes."
producing these films, huh?
Yeah, exactly. That's fair. That was already Snyder's style. You know, darker colors and
Yeah,
which is yeah, he already had that kind of aesthetic. So I think weirdly they're because you said they're friends. It's like actually when you look at the color grading, oh
yeah,
yeah, they are friends. That makes sense.
there you go. And can I say as well, like in that last battle when they approach the base of operations in
Yeah,
Zack Snyder's cut, it's dark and gritty like the entire film.
yeah,
Like okay, they're at the boss now, whatever. In Joss Whedon's version, there's like a red overglow, and it feels
yeah,
very sinister and very cool. And I actually
yeah.
really like that
I do too. I thought that was a lot better as well. Yeah,
because then when everything is over and suddenly the sun is shining again, it's like
it's
bright
back
and
to
blue
blue
and beautiful.
skies. Yeah,
I will
it's
say, and this is part of um writing that I didn't like on Joss Whedon. I'm very willing to say, in Joss Whedon's version, there were these weird like tentacle things that were like dark crystal things going on everywhere,
yeah.
which are
I don't know
were
where he got
essentially
that
consuming. And when everything was over, suddenly there were like fucking flowers everywhere,
from.
and this girl was like going for the flower as if it's like a great
Yeah,
idea to just approach an alien flower.
yeah, and then because the thing is, the only thing I could think of is like, oh, maybe it's a nod to the dark crystals are meant to represent some form of apocalypse, and the flowers are meant to represent eugenesis. But then I thought there's no reference to either what apocalypse looks
No.
like or eugenesis in this film, so neither of those theories make sense. I mean, that may have been true, and I can ask Josh, and he says, "Oh yeah, that's it." I'd be going, "All right, why wasn't that explained at any point? Why is there?"
Mm, I think
To be
if
fair,
you
maybe it doesn't need explaining, but yeah,
if
it felt
if
tacked on.
I think if I were to ask Joss Whedon why he did that, I
Yeah,
think the reason he would give is, you know, in the Zack Snyder cut, when every time Steppenwolf puts in a mother box, like
yeah,
it grows into this thing in this nuclear facility.
yeah,
I think that was a direction that Joss Whedon had received, where it's like, oh, that's what the mother box is doing, and then he was like, okay, but we gotta make it grander, so it like feels like more of a threatening thing.
yeah.
And also, it's worth mentioning that with Zack Snyder's cut, it happened every time a mother box was inserted into that pedestal thing.
Not when all three were
Yeah,
inserted. Yeah,
Joss
yeah.
Whedon only when our three were in.
Yeah. But anyway,
Um, but that's neither here or there. I still think Joss
yeah,
Whedon's writing was a little bit better. Um,
yeah,
editing.
You probably would have more of an opinion on this than I would, but
Uh,
I will listen to it
Okay, so
because I have some opinions, but at the same time, I'm not as big and keen on noticing editing points as you probably are.
so there's two things for editing that I find very important when I'm watching a film, and also
Yep.
when I'm editing stuff as well. The first thing that is most importantly to me is pacing.
Yep. Actually, that's very true. Yeah.
I think there were some scenes in Zack Snyder's cut that were horribly paced,
Oh
just
yeah.
awful. But for the
Yeah. Yeah.
most part, most scenes that were in both films in Zack Snyder's cut were actually slightly better paced because
Yeah.
sometimes like things were given a lot more time to breathe. Whereas
Yeah.
in Joss Whedon's cut, it was literally like this. We gotta get on. We gotta get on. Let's go because we only have 2 hours, and I have to sneak in a couple more jokes. Um,
Yeah.
the other thing is when editing a film, especially, it is really important to decide which scenes are needed and which ones are not, because
That's
sometimes you
true. Yeah.
just have to get rid of
Yeah.
things that you don't need. And like I said,
Yeah.
Zack Snyder's cut doesn't warrant being 4 hours.
No.
The only reason why it is 4 hours is because every single deleted scene that he ever had was put in
It's
there,
basically put in there.
and that was fucking infuriating to me because it took so long for anything to happen. Like, for instance, we were looking at I was reading out goofs of the film earlier,
Yeah.
right? You know
Yeah.
the
Yeah.
bit where they restore Superman?
Yeah.
That's 2.5 hours into the film. It doesn't have to take 2.5 hours to get to that point.
No, it really doesn't.
Uh,
And I'm not sure if you've heard about this. Sorry, quick offside,
yeah.
and this is to do with a bit of edit. It is in fact going to be part of the editing thing. I'm not sure if you saw this, but there is now rumored news that there is another version of the Justice League film that is all black and white, and it has extra scenes that aren't even still in the film that are going to be put in.
So I'll be honest, right? I'm
Yeah.
on board with the black and white version
Okay.
because I at some point I think in 2017 it was like suddenly it became this trend for some films to release a film and then release a black and white film version for it. I know
Yeah.
that they did that with Mad Max Fury Road and with Logan. I
Yeah.
haven't seen the Mad Max one, but I have seen the Logan one.
Yeah.
Genuinely, I prefer the black and white version
Okay.
because basically in the color version, the colors in the film are awesome. I think they're really well done,
Yeah.
but all of the action for some reason is so much more intense in black and white. Like for some, I'd almost say it feels a little bit more realistic almost.
Okay.
In a very weird way. I don't know how to describe it. It felt way more like there was
Ron,
something
let's
about
just
it. It felt more immersive.
yeah. Ron,
So
let's just face it. You're old, and all you remember is the old, good old black and white.
yeah, exactly. I'm just
Back
I'm
in my day, films went
back
in
in
and
my day. Color was a luxury.
you had a color TV, you were the richest person on the block.
Back in my day, the only metropolis was that one German film. Um, so I'm okay with that, but the film really doesn't need to be longer.
No, it, to be honest, when it said longer, I thought, oh god, you know what that means? It's
Yeah,
basically just Zack Snyder looking for an excuse to say, oh, the version I put on HBO Max still isn't my true version.
yeah. And there were so many scenes that just didn't need to be there.
No, I think as we both agreed, the nightmare scenes
They're
should have
pointless.
gone.
They don't help.
They should have been the first thing on the chopping block.
Yep.
And one thing I didn't like, and it is partially to do with the editing,
Hmm.
but it's more. I saw an interview, and it was from Zack Snyder saying, "Oh, Warner Brothers didn't have any notes," and that was in the title, and I thought that's probably not true. But the notes they did have, oh, so they had notes. I didn't listen to it. I thought, oh, okay, you arrogant prick.
That's not how notes work, though.
You
That is
need
the
to like,
opposite of how notes work.
yeah, because I think there's such a big arrogance thing there now.
Yeah,
Because
there
the
is.
issue is the fact that the fans got their way. I'm happy that he got his cut. You
Yeah,
know, every director deserves to have their cut, but at the same time, I'm not happy with how he got it. I
yeah.
think because he is never going to let this down. Warner Brothers are going to be this is going to ruin the relationship now, I think, between Warner Brothers and Zack
Oh
Snyder,
yeah,
because I don't think fans realize the backlash that is coming once. Because I think the thing is, Warner Brothers now have no choice from what the fans have said. They've got to go with Snyder's verse, so they're going to do the rest of Snyder's vision, probably. Probably, we don't know
probably,
yet.
probably.
But once it's
Anyway,
done,
yeah,
I can imagine them looking at Snyder saying, "We are done," and he'll
yes,
go, "Why? Because the fans made us fucking hate you more than we already didn't like you." So doors
pretty
that
much,
way.
yeah.
You can go work for other
Go
studios.
make your own fan films,
Yeah,
you son of a
we're
bitch.
not funding
Yeah.
your half a billion dollar projects anymore. We're done.
Yeah.
But yeah, going back to
Anyway,
editing.
going back to my story about editing. Um, basically, there's a lot of scenes that just didn't need to be there, right? A lot of deleted scenes, like, for instance, Superman meeting Alfred, really not necessary. Um,
And what I think the final sequence at the very end where Martian Manhunter shows up at Bruce Wayne's home.
yeah, Martian Manhunter didn't need to be in the film at all.
No, he didn't. He added nothing to the film.
He added
He really
nothing. Um, the whole like Diana finding out this whole story about Darkseid. It's like, you mean to tell me that you couldn't have just had her like having been told this story when she was a baby? Because like,
yeah.
you mean to
Because
tell
I
me
don't
she's
think
never wandered to this building with the mother box in it and just gone like, oh mommy, what is this? Oh, we don't talk about that building. And then someone, you know what? Maybe you're old enough to know. There's a fucking disastrous device in there.
yeah, there's an apocalyptic device in there that will end all life on Earth.
Yeah, literally,
Frankly,
she had to
it
go
can't do it
to
by itself. It
yeah.
needs too much. But yeah,
Frankly, she
I
had to go all the way to Athens to figure this out. Why Athens? I don't know.
yeah. Because
Um,
that's where the Greek gods were, and they fought in the final battle. But
yeah,
uh,
whatever.
no, because
Um,
yeah, I will agree with you. I think in the end they really could have had a much more
yeah,
beautiful thing of. I think that's the thing. I understand the whole idea of show don't tell, but the beautiful thing is about film, you can still have dialogue that explains things. And I think a simple, it wouldn't have been much, a line of dialogue of exposition of Diana going, "Oh, my mother told me stories of an alien being from another world that came here to try and conquer it," and that's how they did it in the Josh Whedon cut, wasn't it? Basically, that they were
yeah.
both walking along, like
Where Bruce Wayne lives apparently, which
yeah,
is,
and
you know,
basically she just explained the story. And I thought that
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 works.
worked
That's
because
fine.
because they still show as well, but they tell as it's being shown, which actually kind of helps the visual be more understandable. I think that was yeah, it felt
Yeah, and it actually like in that scene as well, they were properly discussing like putting a team together, and
yeah,
um, I think in that as well, like Batman was taken an actually more like strategically like leader role in that situation, which made more
yeah,
sense to me because why would Wonder Woman like go up to Bruce Wayne and go like, "Yo, there's a threat coming. You go talk to that child that you saw on that screen there, and I'll talk to the other guy." It's like,
yeah,
but you don't know who they are. You didn't
yeah.
see that footage, so why are you commanding things about things you don't know? I mean, impressive that you do know. I mean,
Well,
then again, she is a hacker and everything because apparently
no, because they were watching the clips, weren't they?
were they
When
watching them together? Oh yeah,
I
they
think
were
so.
actually. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
They were
I
watching
think
them
that's
over
the thing.
video chat, weren't they?
I
Or
think how they
text chat.
assembled the team, I didn't have a problem with, but it was the
It's the interaction
how
before they
he
went to assemble. I did
yeah,
have
that
problems
I
with
think
assembling the
that's
team.
the problem. Yeah, we both had.
I did have a problem because
Yeah,
so the Zack Snyder cut starts with Superman dying, and you see all the mother boxes and everything. You mean to tell me that we can have a recap of that, something that is very clearly happened, but then the first thing we see after that is Batman going through some snowy mountains, of which we have no
yeah,
idea where it is, to talk to this Aquaman for really no apparent reason. We already
yeah,
discussed this just now when we talked about like the writing and everything, but honestly, and then the
yeah,
the bit where like then Aquaman like goes into the water and the women are singing and it's like, what are you trying to say here? Dude,
yeah,
this scene is taking forever, and there's really no point for this. And the Whedon's cut it's done so much more efficient, and so
yeah.
much
I
clearer
will
in a
say,
way.
actually, because I had this feeling as soon as as the moment it started just going through it, when Batman is going over the mountains,
Yeah.
it just feels like, oh, here are the opening credits, and that was it. It's like a sequence for opening credits, and I'm pretty sure you can imagine Zack Snyder going, cool
Yes.
mountain shots, opening sequence, telling people I directed the film, and
Yes,
that Christopher Nolan
but
came
how
with
did
the new.
Joss Whedon do it? He showed the world that is fucking upset about Superman dead,
Yeah, with
and that
that
worked far
actually
better for
very
me.
nice, and it will actually go into the next thing we'll probably talk about, the nice piece of
Yeah,
music that was played over it, which I think we both really like. But yeah,
yeah.
wrapping up the
So
ending.
editing, all
Yeah,
things considered, actually, there's a couple of things about the editing that I want to bitch about a little bit more. Especially some scenes in the beginning. I've already told you this. In Zack Snyder's version, didn't work for me at all. They're more to
okay,
do with things that come later, but the scene where Steppenwolf attacks Themyscira didn't work at all for me. It felt too long and too
okay.
slow. I think it made no sense for me for the entire building to fucking collapse, for then Steppenwolf and the Parademons to then jump out. I
Yeah,
think it
I
made.
agree with
Whereas in Joss Whedon's version, he just fucking ran through the door. It made way more sense for me because it shows that he was urgently looking for that mother box.
yeah,
He was fucking hungry for it. And
yeah,
in Zack Snyder's cut, he was like, "Oh shit, we're going down. I guess I'll just wait until the walls crumble around me and then I'll jump up."
which will be really cool and
That's
menacing
that's
as
cool.
well.
I've got time. Darkseid's got time. Darkseid doesn't care.
Dark Side is to him going, for
Yeah.
fuck's sake, Wolf,
Fuck's sake,
I'm the
hurry
one.
up!
Because I can imagine just him going to Sard. What have we talked about? You're the only one who's allowed to be slow, methodical, and waste your own time, my lord. No one else is meant to be slow. They're meant to get things done quickly for you. You're the only one
Hmm.
who's meant to slowly approach them. You never run. You always walk. That's
Yes,
how I
but we've
think.
also said that you would explain this to me much faster than you did.
I'm sorry, my lord. I'm sorry.
God damn it, Zad!
He then just fucking amazing.
Speak faster. Anyway,
I
yeah,
am the only one who gets to speak slow, right?
yeah.
It's
Yeah. The other one scene that really didn't work for me, and I told you this, and really burned a lot for me, honestly speaking, is when the scene with Wonder Woman in the bank. It didn't work
yeah,
for me because again, it felt slow and it felt way too violent.
yeah,
Like basically, like there's a bomb about to go off. In Zack Snyder's version, she takes the time. Well, she's super fast and everything, fine, but she literally goes to each and every bad guy that's there to beat them up and horrifyingly like throw them against the wall and with such force that their spine breaks. And in Joss Whedon's cut, it's basically she goes through everyone in her way, but she specifically goes for the bomb,
yeah.
and she tries to dispose of that as quick as possible. It didn't
It's
like I don't know.
I can understand your point, but I think part of me can understand the other side of this is that the reason she took the time to go through and take out every guard before or every terrorist before getting to the bomb is because if she doesn't take out the terrorists, they have guns, they can just shoot the hostages. As soon as
Sure.
if she goes straight for the bomb and gets out, there's like maybe two she's left that weren't in her way. She's going, okay, boom, 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 boom. And because she's moving in slow motion in both scenes, realistically.
Okay, well at that point,
Yeah.
I don't want to go into this, but this becomes the fucking um what's it called? The train dilemma?
Okay.
Basically, basically she could kill everyone
Yeah.
in there or take them out, not kill, take them out so that they don't kill the hostages, running the
Yeah.
risk of potentially not being able to dispose of the bomb. And then
Yeah.
4 blocks, literally 4 city blocks will be blown
Yeah.
up.
Yeah.
Or she goes for the bomb first, diffuses that by throwing it into the air, which apparently is really a bad thing to do. But whatever, every superhero ever does it, so
Superhero
it's
film with
cool.
magic and
Yeah,
cyborgs and
exactly. So it's cool. But then if they kill the hostages, she still failed to do that. Now the
yeah.
question is it better to do one or the other? Because if she disposes of the bomb, she
Yeah.
saves a lot more lives.
Yeah.
So
I think my argument would be ultimately in the end, she does have the speed to do all within the correct time
yes,
because
but
she is that powerful and fast.
the emphasis is on different things for me. And I think
That's
for a superhero to go for the bomb first makes a lot of sense.
yeah, of course. Yeah.
So
I think
I think I've made my point very clear. I'm going for the Joss Whedon cut.
I'll say this for editing. Yeah, I would
Stop fucking correcting me. There we go.
because I'll go with the Josh Whedon cut in the end because I think it was
Very
just
good.
slightly. Don't say that. I'm allowed to think differently in the end, and I will for this. I
That's
know for
not
this one, I
that's not what the
definitely have.
sheet is showing me right now.
Oh, really? What's the first one say? The very one at the top?
You like
Or
Zack Snyder's and I like both.
yeah. So see, we have different opinions. What was the one video cat say? But anyway, I know
Anyway,
for a fact we're probably gonna have different opinions on this one, but
really,
mine won't surprise you because I assume
score.
you prefer Josh Whedon's score.
Yep, I think Danny Elfman made a fantastic score, and it might be a nostalgia thing in a way because he included a lot of elements from other superhero films. Predominantly, the biggest one that he has done, which is Batman and Batman Returns. He's
Yeah,
included that little theme in there.
yeah,
Um, but I just felt like the score was more of a superhero score. I think it felt better for the film. I think it,
yeah.
it made it feel more epic than it was. And I'll be honest, I like Tom Holkenborg. I think he makes really good music. I like the soundtrack that he did for um he did Wonder Woman, didn't he? I like that
No,
soundtrack a lot.
he didn't.
Are you sure?
I'm positive. I have the score on my phone. I will double check it now.
Yeah. I think Hans Zimmer did the theme.
It was Rupert Gregson Williams who did the
Oh, my
Wonder
bad.
Woman.
Okay. Well, he did a theme for one of the other films anyway.
Probably
Whatever.
Aquaman. Probably
If he
Aquaman.
did, then fine. I like the theme for Aquaman, even though going by memory, I'm not sure if he did. Anyway, I like the soundtrack for Deadpool. That he
Yeah.
definitely did do. I think he did Mad Max Fury Road as well. I love that. He
No,
done a really good job on that.
Junkie XL did Mad Max Fury Road. The one
S-
who did
Same
who
person. It's
weird.
the same person
Why are they both sold separately with different names? That makes no sense to me.
because money. Junkie XL is Tom Holkenborg.
That makes no sense to me.
The
Fucking
reason
retard.
I think because he originally
Well, there
went
you
by
go.
Junkie XL and then
Yeah,
then he
because he also
became
did Man of Steel, not the Man of Steel one. He did Dawn of Justice as well
yeah.
with Hans Zimmer, to be fair.
There you go. Because he is Hans Zimmer protege, and you can hear it.
Yeah, you can definitely hear it.
Um,
I will
but I
say
didn't like his
this.
score. I think his score felt too serious.
I will say this. I liked because there were certain scores. I'll look up both Justice League scores on my phone because I listened to both of them enough actually recently.
Sure.
But Danny Elfman, there were certain ones that I really liked
Hmm.
that I thought, yes, that feels super heroic, and I like the theme and the pacing of the song. And then with the other one,
Sure.
it's a similar thing where I like certain ones that. So I'll say for me, it's both. I
You
like
like
both.
both. Okay.
Yeah.
That's fair.
Because I think one thing that they did, and for they did do it as well in in what was it in the Joss Whedon one, where they had a little bit of dun, 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 with Superman's theme.
Yeah. But
And
they did it in minor because obviously he was being evil and shit.
they also did it when he showed up at the very end to help with fight Steppenwolf.
Oh, did he? Oh, cool. I didn't know this,
Yeah,
but that's actually pretty cool.
that was the one I noticed more with.
Oh, because
Um,
in the fight when he was being evil, it was dun 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 dun.
yeah,
Because it's like
but
minor.
yeah, but one thing I did like was the fact that they kind of returned to the Man of Steel Superman theme in the Zack Snyder one, and I like the Man of Steel Superman theme. I find it's
Danny Elfman
very
did that too.
Man of Steel.
Yeah, so basically in the scene where they're in the ship, he did do that as well.
Okay.
And also obviously when there was a scene with Wonder Woman in the bank, he had Wonder Woman's theme from her
Oh
film,
yeah, yeah,
like
of
pretty much
course.
consistently throughout the thing. And I'll be honest, I think that almost made the scene better for me.
Yeah, no, absolutely, I agree. Um, but going more to the Superman theme is they played the more Man of Steel theme as Superman fought Steppenwolf,
Okay.
which I did like the Danny Elfman like dun, 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 as Superman showed up, which I think Zack Snyder's Tom missed out.
Yeah.
But I like the fact that they then carried it on with more of his theme because he was doing most of the fighting.
Yeah, there's arguments not to do that because
There
it
are.
might be a bit tacky.
It might be a bit tacky, but
I didn't I
it
didn't
felt like
perceive it as such.
yeah. But
But
yeah,
yeah.
for me, it was both in the end.
Yeah, I basically had a big problem with Tom Holkenborg's score, where first of all it was felt very serious, and second of all they just added like a completely new Amazon theme that's playing throughout the film, and it felt
Yeah.
very awkward to listen to because it felt too
It
300 for me.
it felt like just a nod to 300.
Yeah, and every
That's
time like
all.
every time Wonder Woman was on screen, that was happening, and I was like, is this because she's meant to be like a Greek goddess, or because she's Semitic? Like,
I
what's the point of this track?
yeah,
Please explain it to me because I feel weird.
I love the. I'm not sure if you've seen it, but there's the the on I don't remember which channel it is, but there's one that basically does pitch meetings where basically it's a
Is this Screen Rant or something like that?
screen rant, yeah. But they did a great parody of basically describing the pitching meeting for Zack Snyder's cut. It's like when they go, "Oh, and by the way, this will play every single time Wonder Woman's on theme." It's like, and they played the song like whatever it was, the 300 one. I
Yeah,
can't
something
remember
like
how it. No, no, no. This,
ah.
this thing was every single time they even mentioned Wonder Woman in the pitch meeting, they played it, and it's like, oh, I'm really just like that. I thought
Yeah,
that's too good
and
because that's what we
it was weird because like Hans Zimmer's Wonder Woman theme is so good. Just
yeah.
do
Because
that.
I wouldn't have had a problem if they had played that if that was established as her theme already, because I think that makes a lot of sense.
Yeah,
But the fact that that was never her theme made no sense to me. Like it's
not at
always
all.
been the dun, 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 kind of thing.
Yeah,
But yeah,
especially
I
because
also
her solo film came out before either Justice League film.
here's the thing. I liked both scores, but I think both were kind of misused and mishandled at points. I think Zack Snyder's did worse in terms of how they used it and handled it.
Yeah,
But I like both in the end, and I would happily sit
fair
down
enough.
and listen to both scores. But yeah,
Fair enough. Well,
going to
I have a clear preference.
yeah, going to CGI.
I will be honest, having seen both of them, this is slightly more difficult.
I would say because there are points where I think they both kind of look good, and then points where I think they both kind of look
Yeah.
bad.
I will
So I don't
say,
know which one.
I will say, I do have a slightly clear preference. Uh, no, actually, no, it's not a clear preference. I need to think about it again. Basically, the problem that I'm having, right,
Yeah,
is for the most part, the CGI is so-so in both of them. Like, it's good, but it's not, like, better than anything. Steppenwolf is whatever in both of them. We'll get to that eventually. Both of them have committed a grand sin for me. Each completely different. For me, in the Zack Snyder cut,
yeah,
it's all of the environments because you can tell that they're in a green screen like digital environment, and
yeah,
especially like having seen things like Infinity War, where even when they're on Titan, they've like built a Titan set with green around them, so it's like blends into it. And
yeah,
then more impressively, the Mandalorian, where they've employed this technology to like as cheaply as possible make all these digital worlds that look really good. And
yeah.
what they've done instead is just put actors on completely
Green
green studios,
because
and it
I
feels
think
fucking weird to me.
the thing is ultimately weirdly why Marvel films look so great, and I think it actually does play into it a massive amount. And you probably know more about the fact that it does is because if there's an actual set built and then the green around it, they have something to already base this background on. They
Yes.
have a connection, which that means that it's easier to extend the scene further out and make it look more like what is real because there's already something there that is real. Whereas in a green screen, it's like you have no reference of what is real and what is not,
Yeah.
and it can look so. Com- and it was a problem in the end. I had both of the final fight when Wonder Woman and Aquaman are both down. They're looking up at Superman, and I looked at the background. I thought, man, that just looks like it's out of a video game, and someone just
Well, this is
basically cut
yeah,
out two real people and then stuck them into a computer animated game. That's
yeah.
the
I don't know. I
foreground.
think the whole film, in terms of like those environments, just felt like a TV show to me.
Yeah,
Like
and
it reminded me of the CW stuff.
I was just about to say, it reminded me of CW, which,
Yeah,
to be fair, CW for what it is on CW, that's fine. All right,
it's
it's
a
a
TV
television
show. It's
show,
fine.
whatever.
Yeah,
But then when you look at it for, a how much it cost Justice
yeah,
League film, and they're going, you're
yeah.
probably
Exactly. However,
yeah.
Joss Whedon's version had one very, very big problem, and that
Those are-
yes, It's fucking. It's Henry Cavill's face.
Because here's the thing, I remember the first time we both watched it and came out and said, I didn't notice it that much. And then when I rewatched it, like, oh no,
No,
I
no,
see it.
it's now that I've watched it again, it's his mouth is so fucking huge. I think what they've done, they must have essentially just enlarged his mouth to cover up the mustache. Like that's what it fucking looks like.
That's what it looks like. Because I think the thing is, the reason why we both, the first time we saw it, thought it didn't look as bad is because we thought it was blown out of proportion.
Yeah.
Because everyone harped in on it saying it was awful. And then we went to see it's like, it's not that
I
bad.
think it was something else. I think it's because initially we didn't know that that was the case. So we weren't really
No,
looking for it.
I think we knew that was the case
I
because
don't
we
think we
knew it
knew.
going in. I think Deshaun told us.
I don't remember now.
Sure, it was like 4 years
It
ago.
was four
So,
years ago, so
but either
um
way, like, we didn't have a massive problem with it. But then, actually, no, I think we did know about it. I think Deshaun did tell us because remember we talked about it once it ended, and if none of us had known, then we might have gone, "Huh, he looked a
that's
bit
true.
funny." But so yeah. But either way, yeah, I think
Yeah. Anyway,
I was
that is massively sinful, and because of it, I can't just give it the win.
no,
Even though the environments were far better, even the same environments were far better, I can't give it
yeah,
the win because of it. So, in a really annoying and surprise move, I'm gonna say neither.
yeah,
I'm
because
sorry to all the effects workers that worked on it, but
I will say this: I
mm,
did ultimately prefer. Yeah, this is a tough one for me because I'm flipping between either Snyder's or neither. No, I'm gonna stick with it. It's neither because I think
okay,
yeah, the scenes where it looks bad for it because I think the mustache one is while it's big enough to bump down Josh Whedon from outright winning,
yeah,
Snyder's is just generally there are points where I
it's just
think
not good.
you film too much and you stretch the budget too thin for effects now.
Yep, agreed.
But yeah,
So
anyway,
now we're going into more character specific stuff. So this is basically keeping everything else in mind from the previous categories, applying to characters as well.
I will say
Cyborg,
this:
go ahead.
you may already know what my vote is for Cyborg.
You're gonna say Snyder's Cut.
Yeah,
I might not agree with you
that's fair. But I think
because
ultimately, I think he was just flushed out that little bit more that I enjoyed his I I felt more for Cyborg, whereas in Joss Whedon's, I just didn't notice him. He felt very much in the background, whereas with Snyder's, it felt like he was a character that was, oh, he actually is there. It's not like, oh, he's here, but he's here for the final fight to save us at the end.
so
But
this is the annoying thing. I don't find myself agreeing with it because
yeah,
I don't think he was that much better flushed out at all. I think the only thing that we really got more about him is first of all he had all of his powers from the get go, right? Because we just had like a montage of Silas explaining to him all the things that he can do, like
yeah,
right off the bat, which I found kind of frustrating already because in the Joss Whedon cut, I think Joss Whedon really put an emphasis on him developing his powers as days go on and like him trying to understand like what like the changes that his body is going through and stuff like that. I think that works a little bit better for me personally. Because remember, like it's not, like the first thing he does pretty much is like he starts hovering in the apartment in front of his father, and he goes, "Yesterday I couldn't do that."
okay.
And then at some point, like a fucking gun comes out of his arm, and he was like, "Holy shit! I didn't know I could do that. That's weird. I need to stop this." Like when they're about to fight Steppenwolf
The tunnel.
in the tunnel, yeah.
Because I
So
think the thing is, they did that kind of stuff in the Snyder Cut as well, at least for me, because there's the part where he's on the roof and he's learning that he has all these weird boosters and things that can help him fly. And in the scene where the parademons come to their apartment, is looking for the box, he's standing there with his blaster out, and then he gives it an off look like, "Oh, that's out." But
yeah,
it's
but
like it's just a glance, whereas that's maybe
it just felt weird to me at that point
yeah,
because
that
in
I can,
yeah
that part I can agree with you. But
um yeah go on.
I think the thing is for me is that while there's the whole diving into his powers, and I think it's important. I think both films did them in their own ways, and I can't fault either one for how they did it. So then I'm backing onto, okay, what about his character? What are his relations?
Yeah.
It felt like there was more of an in-depth relationship with his father in the Snyder Cut, whereas in the because I think weirdly the Snyder Cut got that more through the comic books because Vic
Oh no, it
resented his
did.
dad for what it
Yeah,
did
but
for what he did. Whereas
I mean, to be fair, he did in the Joss Whedon cut as well. Like he
it
hated his
didn't
father, and
feel it didn't feel as important though, to be fair, in the Whedon Cut for me at least.
well, he didn't, because
Yeah.
he wasn't made that important. The problem is,
Yeah.
I think he was made to be slightly more important in the Zack Snyder cut, and I think Zack Snyder said that Cyborg is the heart of the film. This is why he's like at the top of the list. Just for me to say he didn't feel that way in any sort of. At no
I
point
would
did it feel like he was like the heart of the film. Ray
yeah,
Fisher, the guy playing him, said
yeah.
that a lot of the stuff that Zack Snyder had created for this character in terms of like his story and everything, which is
Yeah,
meant to be reflected in this version,
yeah.
is that it's more of a reflection of being a modern day black young American. Maybe
Mhm.
because I don't really have the experiences, but I don't really see how that's the case. Because
Yeah,
how many young black Americans really go
to turn their
through
arms
that?
into a cannon.
Well, I mean, like even if you like do it a little bit more in an abstract way, it's like sure they lose their parents and sure they have problems with their other parents, but like
Yeah, because
how
that's the
many
thing.
people don't have this? Like I don't like that's not.
I hate to say this because I think I'm gonna fault both Ray Fisher and Snyder for that because that's probably because even though Snyder probably told that to Ray Fisher, that was a white man telling Ray
Yeah.
that. That wasn't a
Well,
that wasn't a
but then there's
black.
Quentin Tarantino who like makes slightly more, accurate depictions of what it's like to be black.
Yeah, because you have to
So
remember because what he has two parents who have doctorates, who are probably pretty well off considering all things, considering they have a nice apartment in the middle of Metropolis, a upscale city.
Gotham City,
Was it Gotham or Metropolis?
Goth.
I thought it was Metropolis because they work
What do
near
you
the
what do you think GCU stands for?
Okay,
Gotham City
so I guess
University.
that's true. That's true. Sorry, because it's
It doesn't matter
confusing me.
because in the Snyderverse, these cities are somehow adjacent to each other, so it doesn't matter.
Yeah,
Like literally, like you look from the
it,
docks of one city to the other side and you see that city. So
yeah.
it's like
Sorry,
a drive down. It doesn't make a difference.
my confusion was the fact that Silas Stone basically works in Metropolis.
Yeah,
But yeah, but basically he's at university doing very well, captain the football team,
yeah,
and he has two very well-off parents
yeah,
who are both scientists hired by the U.S. government. That's not
yeah,
struggle. That's not class struggle. He's fine. At worst, he's middle class. At
yeah. I
worst,
will say I get the point of having his mother actually be more in this film.
yeah,
That makes sense because she's
yeah.
like the parent that is present to him, and then
She's
she
his anchor.
dies.
Yeah,
She
yeah,
dies, and then his father revives him, and he's like, "Okay, well, it's your fault that she's dead then, because you
yeah.
did nothing to." That was touched upon in the Joss Whedon cut, but I don't think anything is really mentioned about his relationship to his mother. So in this, it makes sense.
Yeah.
The thing I cringe when I think about it every time in the Whedon cut
Yeah.
when Cyborg goes to meet Wonder Woman, he meets her by walking out of an alley, right? That he's just darkened. In Snyder's cut, he flies in, and it's really cringy to me. Because for a man
Okay,
who doesn't want to be seen, why are you flying?
that's fair. That's fair. But I'm not gonna fault the character so much for that as the writing. That was more of a poor writing
Sure.
choice, I think, in the end.
Ultimately, I am willing to say I like both because
Yeah,
they were slightly different characters. I feel like this character is a little bit more of a darker and slightly more understandable cyborg,
yeah.
but uh, it wins a lot of points in the Whedon cut just for the fact that he said "booyah." And I think
Uh,
because of it, because it tells to me that Whedon based him more off of like the Teen Titans kind of
yeah,
comic book, like light-hearted version, which I can
yeah.
stand behind.
That's fair. I'll
I'm
give
gonna say
you
both. I'm gonna say
that. Yeah,
both.
that's fair. But now, Flash.
Flash. I liked him in both, to be honest with you.
Yeah, I do
I
too.
genuinely I can't say a bad thing about Flash in either version. Um,
Discussion over. They both did
discussion
good.
over. Um,
But I think as we've
no,
kind of
do you know what?
discussed,
No,
because
I'm gonna do a slightly different move. I'm gonna change my answer. In Whedon's cut, he is slightly lesser experienced, and that's really um put emphasis on. And just
yeah,
for that fact that he's like given the ability to grow into that, I'm gonna give him that. I think the time travel stuff, I understand why they did it, but it was frustrating me a little bit because it felt like a cheat right off the bat.
yeah, yeah. I had that same problem with it as well. That same problem with it. But I think one of the things I actually really liked, and it was a scene that they put in with the Snyder cut. And for whether you would argue whether or not it was necessary, I think it made Flash's character not more interesting, but it gave a bit more to him. Was the when he was going to meet his dad, which I can't remember if they did in the
They
in
did.
the reading cut as well, but also when he's at the pet store,
The pet
because I
store
think
is really Flash.
yeah, the pet store was really Flash, and that's what I liked about it. If watching that, and then the whole sequence, like I always carry a tasty treat for
Yeah,
dogs. I thought that is just that's so him.
yeah.
That works so well for that.
The thing is the action of him like saving Iris, and it was Iris.
Yeah,
Um, felt too slow for me and a bit pointless, and I felt like the scene was dragging on a little bit.
yeah,
I didn't really need that scene too much because Flash had other scenes in the Whedon cut that did come through, such as you know um the end credit scene
yeah.
where he was like
I think
racing Superman and stuff like that.
yeah, that was a
The
nice
bit where
nod.
he like okay, so I'll mention this bit, but this will go for Superman as well. I'm conflicted about the scene where he and Superman go and save people because it isn't, but the town that all of this is happening in is based off of Chernobyl and Pripyat.
Yeah,
No one actually lives in Pripyat
yeah,
because it's a ghost town.
yeah,
Um, so for there to be people there, and I think in the Snyder cut, it was made very explicitly clear that that's one of the reasons as well why Steppenwolf
Steppenwolf.
chose that as his base of operations because there's heavy radiation and there's barely anyone around.
Yeah, so no one would
So
notice him
yeah,
or would know he was
so
there.
I'm
Yeah,
the reason why I'm conflicted about that is because yes, that's a point. If it was actually Pripyat and Chernobyl, there shouldn't have been people around there in the first place, so that scene shouldn't have happened. But they
but
are
at the
character
same,
moments.
they are very good character moments. Yeah, because I think in the end, I prefer that sequence more for Superman rather than Flash.
Flash showed character,
Yeah, it did
so I'm
show
okay with
character from
that.
yeah,
I
but
think it's character moment. I mean, Flash still has a bunch of other things like
yeah.
when they're robbing the grave. You know,
Because I think because there's already so much for Flash beforehand and with other scenes before that,
yeah,
that ultimately I feel like that sequence makes Superman
fine.
more Superman.
So
But yeah,
basically, there's this bit where like they're like digging um Clark's body up,
yeah,
and in Whedon's version, like he's trying to relate to Cyborg in a very awkward way.
yeah.
I don't remember. I think in the Snyder cut they were talking about different things.
They were talking about different things. I think it was about Diana, and it was about basically the rest of the team. And then they were like, "Oh,
Yeah,
you know, would do you think Diana would ever go for a younger man?" It's like, Barry, she's 5,000 years old. Every man's a younger man to her,
yeah.
which I thought that's actually kind of
Yeah.
that's
It's a
fair.
nice yeah. It's a nice. But then in Whedon's cut, he was trying to relate to him a little bit more and was like, "Hey, we're both the accidents. Yeah, that there's one of these. No, okay, racially insensitive. Like I thought that was more Flash. Like it feels awkward, but Flash is an awkward human being. And like I said as well, there was the bit in the tunnels. I don't know if I actually said this on stream. There was the bit in the tunnels where Flash got a little bit overwhelmed, and then Batman gave him a pep talk about like just save
Yeah,
one, start with saving one.
just save one.
Yeah,
Yeah,
and I think that was a very powerful.
that
Like
was a
I felt
very
like that was a key moment for Flash.
yeah.
Like
I
if
agree
I
with
had
that.
to base it off of that scene alone, I have to say I prefer Whedon's version for Flash.
I will say this in counter to that, you may not prefer the way they did it with the tunnel scene as much, but I did like the tunnel sequence with Snyder's as well for the Flash side because it was great. Because when the team basically bursted into everything, he was like, Flash went, it's like, this is not doing it together. I thought, that's still Flash. And then as he's running up and down the big tunnel thing, he's basically going, a little faster, please. Once again, that felt Flash to me.
It did and it didn't for me. I felt like that felt more Quicksilver. If that distinction can be made, I felt like, especially because it feels like this is someone who like is
Because,
someone who expects to be part of a team now right away, even though this is pretty much their first mission together.
yeah.
And the can we do it a little bit faster, please? I felt was a little bit. I don't know. It felt like a little bit like, oh, that's funny because he's fast. It didn't.
That, the,
It didn't fit for me.
I think no, because it fit for me because I didn't think it was all. It's funny because he's fast. I thought, okay, that's part of the reason, but the other reason is there's perilous danger below you with parademons that will kill all of you. Can you move it a little bit faster so they don't kill you, kind of thing.
Okay. Well,
But
agree to disagree.
yeah, I disagree. Because then
Yeah.
I will say I had the idea is like, why didn't he just grab them and start running up with them? But whatever.
Yeah.
But because what was the final thing I was going to say about? Yeah, like in the end, I think Flash was fine with both films, as we've agreed.
Yeah.
That I don't know. My final point was, I think my thing is with this Flash because while that part where he's saying, "Can we move a little bit faster?" That's not Barry Allen, but that felt very either Wally West or Bart Allen,
Sure.
and we both agreed that we can't really decide on which one it is because it feels like all
It's more
three.
Bart Allen, I think. I think it's more
Yeah,
Bart Allen in the end.
it's more Bart Allen, but it does feel like there are chopped moments where, oh, this feels more like Wally, this feels more like Barry, but now it's back to Bart. So it's like
Yeah.
they made it all three in one kind of situation.
Yeah. I'm sticking with my decision.
Yeah,
I'm gonna
I
say the
will.
Whedon cut for Flash.
I'm saying both for Flash.
Okay. Aquaman. This might surprise you. I'm gonna go Whedon cut again
I'm not surprised. But I'm just
because
assuming at this point, the times where you've not said Whedon has surprised me. So at this point, don't say it will surprise me, because at this point, I
okay.
just assume for
So
Whedon.
it won't surprise you. The reason why I'm saying this is because even though James Wan has conferred the opposite, I think Aquaman's character in this film
Yeah,
connects way better to the actual Aquaman film, which
yeah,
I love dearly and is actually my second favorite DC film in the extended universe.
yeah, yeah.
Um, I felt like
And can it even
he
be?
was too broody in the Snyder cut, whereas in the Joss Whedon cut he was more of a like a stock D&D barbarian kind of thing, where he's just like angry all the time, and it's almost a joke that he's angry all the time, but
That's a good
also
analogy,
he
actually.
he's cool. You know, he's also cool when it comes to it, and
Real
like when he's actually in the
cool.
fight, he actually like has the time of his life. Whereas in the Snyder cut, it's like, you know, well, I guess I have to do this.
Yeah,
Whatever, let's just get it over with. And that's actually a problem that I had with a lot of the characters. Um, Going right off the bat is they all felt like soldiers to me.
yeah,
Like they all felt like, oh, we're on a mission. Let's do this mission.
yeah,
So that's why for Flash, for instance, that moment felt to me like, oh, this is character development. For Aquaman, every time that like he had a conversation with someone where he's like angry at someone because they fucked up, it feels like a character moment because this is him constantly being on his own and having to learn how to play well with others. Kind of
yeah,
like Batman, but like in a different way because he feels like he is like Batman feels like he's personally responsible for keeping Gotham on track. Aquaman feels responsible for keeping the entire seven oceans on track.
yeah,
You know, like he feels the responsibility, and also like this whole heritage thing that bothers him. Whereas, you know, in the Snyder's Cut, it's just like Mara constantly telling him, like, you are the queen's son. You should take her place. Damn it! And then you know you get to Aquaman film, and he's like, I've seen you before. It's like you've had multiple infuriating conversations with her.
yeah.
So Whedon cut for me. Also, I love the bit where Diana's lasso is accidentally tangled around his leg,
Yeah.
and like on the way there, and he's like starts saying, I don't actually really want to die.
So I've got a question for you. Which one do you think I preferred?
Poof. Okay, so that's a good question. I think he liked the version in the Whedon cut. That's like without a shadow of a doubt, he liked it. I don't know if he preferred it as such. I do think you like the idea of like Aquaman being a little bit more kind of grounded and being introduced into this world properly.
Yeah.
But I think if I had to guess, I would say maybe Whedon cut.
You'd be right. I prefer the Whedon
Nice.
one.
Okay.
Because I will say this, there were a couple scenes in Snyder's cut with Aquaman that I liked.
Yeah.
One of which, purely because I found it funny, is when, as I mentioned before, when they both hit the monument thing, him and Flash, he's giving Flash that like fucking death grip, like you hit me, and like
Yeah.
I like that. I just think it's because Flash's fear in that moment, just to me, is like that feels like such a
Yeah.
real moment. If I saw that in a comic book, I would not be surprised.
Yeah.
But the other thing is, I also
Mhm.
like the sequence where he's like, "We're now telling a kid who's just lost his father to go off to war," and Flash is like, "I didn't think he cares." Like, I never said that. I like that, but I did prefer Aquaman. He felt more
Yeah.
like he felt actually on your comment. He did feel more like the Aquaman from the movie
Yeah.
Aquaman than Zack Snyder's version.
Yeah. Zack Snyder's version
Yeah,
feels like basically Joss Whedon's Aquaman feels like a very aggressive Thor, and
yeah.
Zack Snyder's version of Aquaman is Thor if Zack Snyder could have Thor and just be angry and should just go like, my father is dead, I have to take up his throne. Oh, shit's bad.
Yeah.
Um,
Because
what
I
I
will
will
say
say,
one
go on.
sequence I liked with uh I preferred in Whedon's is when Aquaman gets onto the rocks at Gotham when they're talking to Jim Gordon and he's like he looks over, he's like, just like a bat. I dig it. I
Yeah,
thought that was very comical. I will
it
say
is.
one thing, I love the lasso sequence despite one thing I didn't like about it.
Mm.
And the one thing I didn't like about it is when Aquaman's going on and Wonder Woman's having a sort of chuckle to herself like that, but then Batman's kind of like that, like
He
Batman
didn't do
wouldn't
the
care.
face thing. He didn't do the face thing. He did.
He
He
did a
did.
little bit. He
He
was
did
kind
a
of like,
slight. He did a slight smirk where he's like, you might want to."
yeah.
Yeah,
But
but that I can forgive that.
I can forgive it as well, but
That's
in the
not the
end,
worst
that's
facial expression he does in the entire film.
no, but that's more of a note on Batman and the writing
Yeah,
versus Aquaman and that
there's
scene. And
there's one bit with Aquaman that I didn't like in the Joss Whedon film, and that was when they're about to reanimate Superman. This is a long episode, by the way. I hope people are enjoying. Um,
I knew it
it,
was going to be long
when
because it's a
when
long.
when they're about to reanimate Superman's body, Aquaman says, "Diana's right. We shouldn't be doing this." I
Yeah,
didn't like that because now it feels like the classic Whedon thing where he's like dividing people so they can get back together.
yeah, yeah.
And yeah,
Because I think weirdly, going back to sort of the writing and the story, I think Snyder handled the resurrection, despite the fact that it took too long to get into it. The part I liked
oh,
was
Tammy's
the
here.
fact that
Literally, you say Aquaman and you summon Tammy.
there you go. But she's probably going, Aquaman. I'm wondering if I should leave. No, no, we liked Aquaman. We liked Aquaman. But
Yeah, but
oh,
in
a
the
bit more
Snyder,
for
yeah,
spoilers. If you don't want spoilers, then yeah, Tommy, you probably shouldn't be watching this because we're gonna go into spoilers. But
yeah,
one thing which one was it? One thing I liked about the Snyder cut when they're bringing Superman back, despite the fact it takes too long, is that Aquaman is very much against it, like he is in
Whedon's.
Whedon's cut. But I like the fact that in then once again, Tammy, don't watch this right now. Stop saying spoilers and
We're
just
gonna
click off.
continue. We have so much
We're not
more
gonna
to do on
stop.
this list.
Yeah, we're gonna have to go through this entire list. But whereas Wonder Woman was still undecided because I think she understood the merits of both sides. Bringing him back is dangerous, but at the
Yeah,
same time, they kind of need him,
actually,
which I preferred.
I don't know because in the Snyder cut, it felt like everyone was kind of in agreement that this was the way forward. Like I said, a little bit too soldier. Um,
Yeah.
in Whedon's cut, it was predominantly Batman versus Wonder Woman.
Yeah.
Where it's like Batman said we have to do this, and Wonder Woman said this is a very bad idea, and Flash said I hope it's not going to be a pet cemetery thing.
Yeah.
Which I like because then when Superman came back without any memories, and Flash just goes pet cemetery.
Yeah.
Just a little bit. I like throwaway references. I think they're funny. Anyway.
Wait, all the jokes that you wish they had cut from Whedon's.
I mean that's no. There's a difference between throwaway jokes that work and throwaway jokes that are character destructing.
Fair enough.
And I think Whedon is very like he did the latter a lot.
Yeah.
But this is not one of the jokes that ruined it.
Yeah.
I mean, he made Avengers. He knows what he's doing. Sometimes.
Yeah, he does. Despite what all the Snyder fans, because let's face it, they're not the average cinema goer. It's all the Snyder fans saying, like, sorry, Whedon doesn't know what he's doing.
He made one of the best sci-fi series of the early noughties.
Yeah, and he made one of the most iconic teen drama series ever.
He did.
Being Buffy. So yeah, he knows what he's doing. Anyway, moving along now from Aquaman to Wonder Woman.
Sure, yeah. Wonder Woman, I will say, basically, if I have to compare them, the soldier thing is really bothering me, where it was like, we have a mission, we have to go for it. We have already agreed she felt kind of underpowered in both films.
Yeah.
In Whedon's cut, I think that was less the case. I think she wasn't as underpowered. Because there were...
Really? Because I felt the opposite. Weirdly.
I think there were times in Snyder's cut, especially during the last fight, where she felt very weak. And especially like from the point of view of like she was so easily provoked because he kept going on and like about like how he's going to destroy her home world or her like home island and kill her mom and whatever, and she was like so easily provoked by that. I felt like I don't know. I did have a problem.
I didn't get that.
In Whedon's version, there was the beautiful bit where Batman at some point says like, "Oh, you've been keeping to yourself for like a century," and it's like, well, I mean that's not true, is it?
No, it's not.
So that didn't work. So in terms of like character accuracy to the other films, I suppose Zack Snyder's version is more correct. Which obviously helped by the fact that Zack Snyder actually produced the Wonder Woman films. So there's cohesion. But I overall liked her a little bit more in Whedon's, and I think in Whedon's one as well. Like there was more emphasis on her trying to become more of like the leader of the Justice League.
Yeah, I'd agree with that. Yeah,
and I feel like that makes more sense to me and was a little bit more accurate to me.
Yeah, because giving my 2 cents about it, it's one of those. I still think she's underpowered, but I think weirdly the reverse. I think she's more underpowered in Whedon's cut because I think I didn't think there was one that did. No, actually, no, I'm going to go back on that. I don't think there was one version where she felt more empowered than the other because in all fight sequences that were slightly changed here and there, I will contradict the one thing you said, which was she was too easily provoked because she jumped down, stabbed a parademon, and there was a good long conversation between the two of them. It's like, but you're different, stronger. It's like blah 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 blah. But then whereas in
already.
Yeah, it did start to irk her. Whereas in Whedon, she jumped down, stab, and then he said, but your blood is still slick with your sister, or my axe is still slick with the blood of your sister, and then she just launched at him.
Did that happen? Like, I don't think that exchange happened in Whedon's cut.
No, there was it was alternately different.
She stabbed the parademon, and then the fight just immediately continued. I don't think there was that exchange.
No, yeah, that's my point. There was an exchange, so how could she be more easily provoked in one where she stopped to listen to one where she stabbed, hit?
So,
that's
in editing and in film as well. Are you familiar with the Kuleshov effect?
Not at all.
Okay, I don't know if I pronounced it correctly, but I'm gonna call it the Kuleshov effect. So the effect is that basically the principle of it is sometimes the emotions that the characters have is not necessarily the emotions that the actor is putting into it, but is
Yeah.
projected by context and what we see into it as well. The effect is usually mostly expressed in, like, if you were to have, let's say, you film an expressionless man, like
Yeah.
literally like a close up of his face,
Oh, I know
and
the
then
effect you're talking about now, and then
so
you cut
then
it.
you cut to the
Yeah.
cake, you cut back to his face, and you might be
Yeah.
thinking, oh, he's hungry, but then you cut to, um,
Yeah. Yeah.
like a picture
I
of his
know. Yeah.
mother, yeah. So this is
Yeah.
this I think this still applies in a way. Is basically if she like stabs a parademon and then attacks Steppenwolf, for me it's just like, okay, so you're just going from one enemy to the other, nothing going on there. If she goes down, has that exchange that is very personal to her, and then she continues fighting, to me it feels like now this is fueling her to continue the fight.
Because in Whedon's cut, she's still provoked because there is a point where they're on that bridge part in the main shaft, and he actually holds up his axe and says, "My axe is still slick with the blood of your sisters." He doesn't say that actual line in Snyder's cut. He says something similar, but still slightly different.
Yeah.
So she's still provoked. So I don't have a problem with that because I think
Yeah, but at that point they
that
were already mid fight, so it doesn't.
yeah, they were already mid fight. I think I didn't
I'm
have a
mostly
problem with
thinking
her.
about the last fight. The last fight was like a little bit worse for me.
What
Cause she, yeah,
the
because she
terrorist
went in to
scene?
fight Steppenwolf more than
Oh,
anything to distract him from the mother boxes so
yeah,
that Cyborg could do his thing. In this case, there was like a whole monologue that Steppenwolf did upon her about like how he's going to kill all of her sisters and her mother,
yeah,
and you could see her get angrier as he keeps talking. But I just didn't feel like that was, that didn't work for me.
yeah. Because I will say this, I will say this. My big positive to Whedon's cut is she felt more like a leader in the Whedon cut. Whereas the problems you had with the Snyder cut, I didn't have because when you're mentioning the whole she's killing all the
That's
terrorists, I
fine.
thought Wonder Woman kills people. She's done it in the comic books, and she's made it clear in multiple versions of her to Superman and Batman as I'm not you. There's a reason my villains don't come back. I will do what is necessary. And I think that's fine. The killing thing doesn't bother me. Yeah, sure, there's an argument about the whole bomb thing. I'll give you that. That's fine with me.
Yeah.
But my big, and I will give this to Joss Whedon. I think Joss Whedon got Wonder Woman more correct because she felt more like the team leader, as opposed to the team felt very
Yeah.
leaderless in Snyder's cut, or
Yeah,
it felt like
it
that.
just felt like they knew what they were doing because they're
Yeah,
like
it felt like
soldiers
they
of
were almost a
yeah.
team for so long. I was like,
So are we both voting Joss Whedon's cut then, or are you gonna
yeah,
say both?
I think
Okay.
so. No, I'm saying Joss Whedon's cut for Wonder Woman.
Okay. Different reasons, but
I think
same.
the next one we're both going to agree on as well.
Yes. I will say I feel a little bit conflicted about using the end scene as like a character moment because that stuff shouldn't have happened in the first place. But it showed. First of all, that scene shows to me the Superman that I've been wanting to see for 3 films, except for his
Yeah,
messed up face. Um, and most importantly, like all those scenes where in the Snyder's cut where he just kind of boringly went to like that ship, and we saw we saw the blue suit, and he still got the black one. And we've
yeah.
already talked about this. The black one,
If there was an argument for it restores his powers quicker, and they had a scene explaining that, then fine, black suit would have made sense. But there wasn't. It felt like they
yeah.
just went with the black suit because I can honestly imagine Zack Snyder going, "Oh, let's go with the black suit because that's more modern and people want to
No,
have him look more
because
like
people thought
Batman."
they saw that, and he's like, "Oh, we
Yeah,
should really give people what they want because
yeah.
they'll lick
That's
that shit up like candy off a coat rack."
fucking yeah, yeah.
Um. Anyway,
Because I wouldn't have
um.
had a problem with the black suit in Whedon's cut if they had gone with that, even if there was no explanation as to why he wore that instead of the blue one, simply because it still felt like Superman in that
Yeah.
film.
Well,
But yeah,
this is the thing. The way if they wanted the black suit, I can set it up a little bit easier for them, which is instead of being buried as Clark Kent, it would be buried as Superman,
yeah,
and the suit, because it's alien technology, it can be intelligent enough to discolor that way. So when they then go to get his body, it's not there anymore.
yeah,
And then it turns out that it's actually gone off and restore on its own, and then Superman comes back. and then you don't have this pet cemetery situation fight that in both versions really didn't make any sense. Like, how could he get that power that quickly?
Yeah.
The only thing I
Yeah.
would say that I liked about that bit in Whedon's version better than Zack Snyder's version is that in Snyder's version, that scene was about the mother box. You can tell because the whole thing is like around the mother box, like reaching everything in the right time and like doing everything correctly,
Yeah.
and the focus was on that mostly. In Whedon's version, it was more about Superman, and
Yeah.
it's such a tiny thing that makes it so, and it's all editing. The only reason why I believe that's the case is because there's actually a shot of Superman opening his eyes, and that is literally it. That made the whole scene about Superman suddenly,
Yeah, that's true.
and I
That's
felt
very
like
true.
Snyder's film needed that.
Yeah.
So, um, I mean,
But he may never
yeah.
know. Yeah.
Anyway, I hated that
Yeah.
scene regardless because it didn't make any sense. I thought
Yeah, he
Whedon's
was
version of the
just
fight was more enjoyable, and I thought Superman talking to Batman was corny but made sense because
yeah.
you see the shape of basically. I feel like hmm, I feel like with Amnesia, I don't have a lot of experience with that, but I think the last images that you have stick the longest with you. Right?
Yeah.
That's the idea that I have. So basically, he sees
Or the
Batman.
most
Batman is one of
because
the last
what
people he saw,
yeah,
and
and
it
the
triggers a
thing
memory, and it's like suddenly like, oh yes,
because
he
yeah, I think the thing is it's not even just the last thing he saw, it's more about the most recent memories because then there's an argument as to he barely knew Wonder Woman, had no real exchange with her. There was no strong connection there. So the last two was like, "Oh yeah, I am Kal-El, but who the fuck is this woman telling me that? I know she may seem familiar, but who gives a fuck about that?" Then
yeah
there's Lois Lane, who's obviously the love of his life. Of course, he's gonna fucking, regardless of
yeah
his state,
because
probably
Lois is just
recognize
a
that.
cheat card every time.
Whereas with Batman, it's like, wait a second, you tried to kill me.
Yeah, yeah. So
You,
that's not helping.
you're the one. Like, yeah, there's a
Yeah,
big enough
I
reason
mean,
for
if you're
that.
asking me, I don't think that scene should have happened at all because I don't think Superman could have been that powerful after being dead and under
Yeah,
the ground for so long.
it would have made
Um,
sense if I think, as just sort of, this is going into dangerous territory. What we would have done, what I would have done,
of
is
course.
he would have landed at the monument, still maybe with the ability to fly, but maybe not have the physical strength or anything. But he would have looked at everything. The lake would have shown up. He would just look at him and go, "I don't remember any of you," and he would just flown off to the one place he remembers, which is the farm. And then he could have
Yeah,
met Lois there, who would have been gone speaking with Martha. I think the fight sequence wasn't important. What was important was him coming back to life and him reestablishing memories. And in that kind of state where you don't remember anything, but you remember maybe small certain things like, oh, there's a place I remember that I felt safe. I'll go there first.
yeah,
Like, yeah.
yeah.
Anyway,
Ultimately, I think the point is because we do have to kind of
yeah,
Superman.
wrap
Joss
these things
Whedon's
up.
got easy.
Yeah. Now
Batman.
this is going to be interesting to get your opinion on. I'll say
Um,
this.
you go first.
No,
Actually, you go
uh,
first.
mine, hands down, Snyder,
Okay,
because
so
despite
we're
his
gonna
many
have a
faults with
conversation.
all the other characters, he can make Batman feel like Batman. Whereas my problem with Whedon's cut, I I hate how they butchered him. I actually no, I'm not a fan of Batman fans. I don't like, but I like Batman, and a lot of the points with Batman within that film, where there were some points where I thought were good, like save one. That's all you need to do. I thought that feels Batman, but then it's like, oh, something's definitely bleeding. I'm not Adam West, so I probably shouldn't be the one saying this, but okay.
Adam West wouldn't even say something like that.
No, he wouldn't. But yeah, Batman felt so horribly butchered in Whedon's cut.
Yeah.
Well,
So
I can't forgive it.
you said that it wouldn't surprise you, so I'm not going to surprise you, and I'll explain why. And it bleeds a little bit into Superman as well.
Yeah,
So basically, um, for the most part, Batman progresses pretty much the same for the most part.
yeah,
Slightly different, and there's slightly different beats, but for the most part, it's not very different. But and this is where Superman kind of comes in. Throughout the entirety of Snyder's Superman films, there's a clear kind of thing that he's doing with Superman, where
yeah,
he's like doing like the Jesus comparisons,
yeah,
right? And it's not getting any better with this film, where like he dies and then comes back to life.
And he's there up above the sun, taking in his rays with his arms stretched out like he's on a fucking cross.
So the problem I have with Zack Snyder's Batman towards the end is that
Mhm.
he's behaving like a born again Christian. And I don't
Okay.
like that. Basically, the problem that I'm having is when Superman comes back, and at some point they fly off, and Alfred goes like, "It's not like you to like not make these decisions based on facts, but like go by feelings and stuff like that." And he just goes, "Faith, Alfred, you gotta have faith." And it's like that's something Batman would never say. That doesn't make any sense. That sounds
Yeah, I can agree.
that sounds weird to
It's
me.
not something he would say openly to many people, if anyone, because the one sequence where I think I can only come close to relating that to is in the Justice League Unlimited series when Superman is dead and
Okay.
Batman is standing before his grave, basically telling Superman how much he meant to him. You told me that justice doesn't always have to come from the shadows of the dark, that there was hope. So I think there's an argument for him thinking that he has
That's
faith.
him respecting someone else's methods. That's
Yeah,
different. This
yeah,
is where he's changing his method because he's seen some sort of light after
yeah.
Superman died. It's very like trying to push Christianity in a way, and it feels weird to me. I think it's a little bit out of place. Um,
I
also,
could make a joke here about why it feels weird to you, but I won't. Be horrifying.
let's not talk about the elephant in the room. Um, anyway, yes, there are problems in Whedon's version of Batman. Like the
Yeah,
joke about something's definitely bleeding is awful and should have been cut. That
yeah.
expression was awful in that last fight where Superman shows up and he's like I said, I watched it again on Monday. It genuinely looked like he's just in his fucking trousers. Um,
Uh,
in Snyder's cut, he didn't even acknowledge him coming in. Like he was just like, "Yeah, this. I knew this was gonna happen
oh,
because I'm at the
I would
perfect
say
center."
it's an underrated, but underrated in the sense it's forgettable, but it's an
Yeah,
equally bad one. Whereas like Superman, and it's such a Superman line though. It's like I knew you didn't bring them out because you liked me. That feels Superman, but then
yeah, and
Batman had to fuck
yeah,
up that whole sequence with like I don't not like you. I thought,
yeah. No, that was awful.
What
That
are
was
you, an
beyond awful.
18-year-old girl speaking to your crush? The fuck?
Genuinely, like having it some it's fucking Bruce Wayne. He would never fucking stumble like that. If he
No.
said something like what was Superman's line again? Like
I knew you didn't bring me back because you liked me.
um he could have said so many other things such as, you know, I brought you back because I need you.
Yeah, if
It's
if they had
still
just
it
been,
feels needy, but it still sounds more like Batman than I
well,
don't not like you.
yeah, or alternatively could have said, "I don't like you. I just needed you to do something for me."
Yeah.
And that, if he had just said that, that would have been it because it would have still felt like Batman just saying, "Look, I don't give a fuck about the fact that you're back. I just needed your help." And that was it.
Yeah.
Look, you can do
Um
things I can't. Let's just not go into it. No, he wouldn't say that part,
it
but
is a very Superman line, I
it
will
is
say.
very Superman,
But it's
which I
not
think we ultimately appreciate Whedon for.
yeah. Anyway,
Whedon knows
yeah.
Superman a lot better than Snyder.
Yeah.
As we've discussed, Snyder feels like the guy who picks like a comic book going, "Oh, pretty pictures. Oh, there's word
Yeah.
in them. I don't read the words, but I like
Pretty
the
much.
pictures."
Um, and so basically, now why am I like I'm kind of debating contrary to my point. So I'll move it a little bit better. Whedon's version is the only version in which he acknowledges that Superman is more human than he is, because he does explain to Alfred that he had a girl, had a job, had a family,
Yeah,
and lived because he liked it. Like he had a normal life, whereas he didn't. There were
yeah,
a lot of moments where Batman showed vulnerability, which I think is really good because, especially being surrounded by all these supers that don't have half the issues that he has to deal with in combat, was great. He was in constant conflict with Diana, which makes sense because they're fundamentally different characters.
yeah,
Um, and he was constantly trying to manipulate people to get to the point where he needs them to go. That is very Batman.
yeah,
So as much as we can fault him for a lot of the bad interactions that he had with Superman that we didn't put in, probably for a laugh. that
Yeah.
didn't work. I still think that the Batman that Whedon put forward for the majority of the film is more Batman than Zack Snyder put forward, which is again a brooding soldier who is just going, "This is the mission. This is what we have to do." But then again, I will say it doesn't. I'm not gonna say that I'm right about this. That you're wrong if you disagree, because Batman is
All
completely what you
about
make of him. Completely depends what your perception of what Batman should be
yeah,
is, and I think
because
we might not agree on that.
no, I am going to change. I'm going to say neither
Okay.
because I think both negatives outweigh them all. But here's the thing: I will say then the issue is with the argument you've just made there. It feels like that confirms it's Batman to me because Batman is all about one thing, the
But
mission,
yes, but
and
it's how he gets to the mission, and
it is how he
how he
gets the
does the
mission.
job.
But here's the issue: there is a big point in every form of media, whether it's comic books, other shows, whatever. His Bat family, other people, he treats them like soldiers in his army. And people like Dick Grayson, like members of the Justice League, have called him out on it, saying, "You act like we're soldiers in your army. We're not." And I
That's
think, to be
yeah.
fair, they never make that point in the Justice League film, which is a big miss.
Okay, sorry.
But
I will change.
there's
I will change my statement. He felt like a brooding Christian.
there you go. That's a
There you go.
better argument.
That's a better
Jewish
argument.
boy. Sorry, I had to get in there once.
It doesn't matter. That that means I'm more likely to play Flash. Fuck you. Anyway,
So wait, if someone's Christian, does that mean they're more likely to play Superman? Because I will say this:
no,
Superman has always had
no.
that kind of air of Christianity to him, even in some of the comic books. Not as
In
an
the
obvious
comics, he
parallel.
has an air of Judaism. I will say, there's a reason why, in general, um, most famous Jewish people like
Mhm.
Superman more than most non-Jewish famous people. First of all, because I don't know.
Name the famous Jewish people who like him, and name the
Well,
non-famous Jewish people who.
so starting with probably his biggest fan,
Uh
Jerry
huh.
Seinfeld,
Okay.
right? That's all. That's all I know. But he's pretty big. He had a very big sitcom in the
here's
90s.
here's
Okay,
here's then his
let me put it differently. First
Zack
of all,
Snyder's what probably Christian and his biggest
probably is, yeah. But he's not a
biggest
fan of
fan.
Superman, because if he
That's
was,
true.
Man of
I'll
Steel
give you
would have
that.
been way better. Like, I know that it's a good guilty pleasure film in a way, but it's an okay film, and it could
We
have been
say
so
that,
much
but at the
better.
same time, we've also agreed that fans aren't always the best people to make films.
I agree.
But yeah.
I agree, but you know, some fans.
But yeah,
Anyway, I
some
don't want to
fans.
go into this because this is very or anyway, the original writers of Superman are Jewish. Fair enough.
Yeah, of course.
That's of course most writers in comics are Jewish for some reason.
To
Um,
be fair, most people who worked within the industries at the time
yeah,
were
but the
Jewish.
idea of Superman is incredibly Jewish, more so than Christian, I think. The reason for that is because um, Jesus grew up among people who were essentially of the same faith as him,
Yeah,
but was surrounded by other people who were oppressing these people at the time. And he was
yeah,
trying to stand up for them, but fundamentally he was very similar to them. And he was chosen by God or whatever, then died, and
yeah,
then got resurrected, and people started following him. That's what Zack Snyder's Superman is.
yeah,
I think fundamentally Superman is not like Jesus entirely. I think he's more like Moses, where he's from a different people who's literally put in a basket and sent
yeah,
off to safety, found by other people, and then grows to become part of those people, but always knowing that he's
yeah,
slightly different, and then is shown that he's actually of a completely different tribe, and now has this um, responsibility of you know bringing uh, these people of this tribe to safety, which is weird because it sounds like by that default it would be the Kryptonians that are being saved by
yeah.
Superman.
So he's trying to save Zod. I feel like
But no,
because
no, but like
here's the thing.
don't think of the Pharaoh as like, don't think of the Pharaoh as like Zod or whatever. Think of him
No,
as
no,
Lex
I'm
Luthor,
thinking of Superman's people or Moses's people who are
also Kryptonian.
yeah. So and
Pass out of
what
the bag. We're all
Moses
Kryptonians.
yeah.
um,
But I think
Fundamentally,
because here's
though,
the
think of the Pharaoh in this story as Lex Luthor.
yeah.
And in that situation where it's like he doesn't really care about the people beneath him, he just does whatever with them. He has his riches, he enjoys that.
Because I will say this, I think there's parallels between both Jesus and Moses. Because you have to remember the fact is with
Well, yeah, because frankly, the people who wrote both Bibles weren't very creative.
no, and the more the point is it's Superman's Moses because yes, actually it's a very good point. He came from a different group of people to be raised by another group of people.
Yes,
But just like Jesus, who died, Superman died, and he came back to life. And that's not just Snyder. That's in the comic books, which I'm not going to tell you that you should know because you do know because you're
I
wearing a
do.
Superman shirt for Christ's sake.
Yes, and I
I
also
think
have
so.
a, I
Therefore,
also
it's
have a, I have a statue of right over there, a statue of Doomsday holding Superman's cape.
there you go.
I
So
know the
I'm gonna
story, but like this,
yeah.
that's slightly different
I'm gonna
because in that situation, sorry, we like comparisons between Superman and religion are very interesting, and I'd love to go into that one
yeah.
day. But
I think we should
yeah,
do that another time because we're now talking about Superman the
in
Batman. So,
any
but
case,
final closing point, I will say, Superman doesn't feel like any religious figure to me because I don't have a religion. He just feels like a really awesome guy who I would like to see more of,
fair
and
enough,
I think more people should be like him.
fair
But yeah,
enough.
there you go.
I think from an original point of view, Superman must have been written from a Jewish perspective.
Oh
But
yeah, of
over
course.
the years, obviously, like people, like different writers have written stories for him. They've made
Yeah,
something more universal out of him, and all around, he's just a great character. Probably
yeah,
my second favorite superhero of all time,
yeah,
but my favorite DC superhero.
yeah.
That
I
much I
I,
can
I know
admit.
who your favorite superhero is anyway of all time.
Everyone knows.
Yeah. Anyway,
Everyone
on
knows.
to the next one.
Steppenwolf.
Stoppenwolf.
Stoppenwolf. Steppenwolf.
Is that Steppenwolf?
I think we've already touched on this. His story in the Whedon version is much weaker.
Yeah.
Um,
But
I
at the same time, weirdly, I'd even still make the argument that in Whedon, despite what all the Snyder fans are saying, he looks more like his comic book counterpart in the Whedon version.
yes, because in
He's not
Snyder's
wearing.
cut,
He's not. He looks like as you made the
yeah,
great parallel. He looks like the Destroyer from Thor.
yes, but more glam metal,
Yeah.
like with the fucking spikes all over his body that are rotating for some reason,
That.
or like just kind of going out and in, like
That's why
you
it
know,
felt like a transformer to me because I keep expecting him to go.
yeah.
I keep expecting him to
Like
do it.
I'm not sure what that armor is meant to be, and I'll be honest, like when he spoke to the Sod, like the armor partially like dissipates, and it's like, why is it doing that?
Yeah. I,
Like
s- I
I don't
assume it's
know.
like some version of living armor or whatever that's connected to him, but
It doesn't look cool. It looks
it
weird.
does it does look weird.
It looks like it belongs in Thor Ragnarok. I don't think it should be in a Zack Snyder Justice League film. I think if
It should not
anything,
it should not be from Apocalypse in
no.
any way. It's
I
not
think if
Apocalypse phenomenon.
anything, um, the version that was in the Whedon cut would
Yeah.
have fit much better in this film, and I wouldn't have had a problem. Like if that was the case, it would have been an easy win for Zack Snyder.
Yeah. Because here's the thing, if they had kind of done like a cross between the two where Whedon had that armor, but the thing is it looked very dull and grey in a weird way. It didn't feel it looked like it was almost stone and at the same time part of his flesh. Like I don't know. It's just
Yeah,
it
but
didn't look
it looks cool.
it
Like
does, but at the
it's
same time
visually
it felt like
appealing.
it was sure. I think the thing it was missing, it missed the color because I like Steppenwolf's actual armor from the comic books, which is black and with lining of red.
Yeah,
I, in the end, I just think, why couldn't you have just done that? Yes, it looks too obviously sinister, but this is a guy that comes from a planet called fucking Apocalypse. Obvious cynicism is in the job description for this guy.
but yeah,
Yeah,
but also like I don't know, like the design of the armor, right, in Whedon's version felt more Jack Kirby to me. The second version didn't do it all. Which is weird. Why I'm suddenly saying like feels like it belongs in Ragnarok. Actually, now I think about it, not really.
Doesn't
Maybe
belong in anything.
in any
Closest
other,
thing it belongs in the end for me. I'm basing this solely
Wonder
on
Woman
Michael
'84,
Bay's.
maybe.
I, not even that.
That was
But
quite glam metal. Come on.
it was, but at the same time, her armor wasn't going.
No, it's
Because in the
going.
end, that's the big reason why I felt like it was. It didn't even go because it was just they were
Oh no,
pointless wings that
it
didn't
just went like
move.
this.
Yeah, I don't know why she had wings. They don't. They have no purpose.
Because she didn't know that she could fly from herself. It's a story about a young woman growing up at the age of 4,960
Something
years old.
or whatever. Yeah, but I think what was I going to say about it? Because the issues I have with the armor, the whole reason why it looked like Transformers to me is because of fucking Michael
Megatron.
Bay's. Yeah, basically it looked Decepticon like
Yeah.
to narrow it down, and in the end I
Yeah.
was like, this is a weird crossover.
Yeah.
I
So
don't know if I agree with it.
I think I'll be honest. I will surprise you. I'm gonna say neither.
Okay, fair enough.
Yeah, it's not like I'm saying it surprises you because it's for once
It's
not
not
Whedon
Josh
cut.
Whedon
Yeah.
outright because I'll say this: I think I have a slightly bit more of a spread than you do. Yours
Oh
is
no,
pretty
absolutely.
universally.
I'm very biased somehow.
It's not somehow. Let's be honest, we know why.
Danny Elfman, baby.
uh, but I will say this: I think the armor is a big problem for me. It's not big enough for me to say yes, both are crap. I will ultimately say I prefer Snyder's version
Fair
of
enough.
Steppenwolf.
Fair enough.
I think in the end, the armor I can get past because I think his story was just better. But yeah.
Yeah. Fair
Anyway,
enough. So now we're done with characters. Overall experience. This is probably the most important one. It doesn't
yeah,
weigh heavier than any of the other categories, but
yeah.
thoughts?
I will say this. I think in the end, ultimately, the more and more I think about it, I will say I like both.
Okay.
I like both
Okay. That's fair.
because now that I actually look at the spreadsheet, I can see that it is pretty.
Yeah.
And the ones where it is Whedon in certain areas, it feels like it's just just
Yeah.
by a few bits
Uh,
Whedon.
I'm gonna preface my opinion by saying this: both films aren't very good.
Yep, I completely agree.
I think the only reason to ever watch any of either is, first of all, to say that you've seen it, and second of all, if you feel like watching the DCEU like in several years when there's like a couple of them and there's this big event and you have to rewatch everything, then yeah, you're gonna have to watch one of them. And if you're gonna do that, then unfortunately for
You
me,
need to watch the Snyder one.
the
Yeah,
Snyder one is canon. Like that's unfortunately been confirmed.
yeah.
However, I think if you just want to have a movie night where you watch a bad superhero film
Whedon's cuts. Yeah,
and you
I'd agree
have to
with you.
watch Justice League for some reason, you know what? No, fuck it. I'm just gonna put neither. No, I'm
Yeah,
sorry.
no, I'd agree with.
There's like I can't choose one above like
Yeah,
I think no. In
because
all
here's the thing.
truthness, I enjoyed the Whedon's cut more, but the more I think about it, the more I really wish I just watched something else.
Yeah, I think
Because
that's
I've
fair.
wasted like in 2 days, I've wasted 6 hours on these films.
Yeah,
You know, and
because
there's so many other things that I could have been watching instead.
here's a question I
There
have
isn't.
for you,
Yes.
and this is more to do with just and it's actually part of your experience. Are you a bigger Marvel or DC fan, or is it too indistinguishable between the two?
So
Because I think that can influence overall experience.
it's a yeah. So this will not surprise you. It is a very fine line.
Yeah,
I
for the most
I
part.
like both a lot.
Yeah,
And for the most part, I think it really depends on the medium
yeah,
because there's some stuff like for instance the Marvel Cinematic Universe is far better than the DC Extended Universe,
yeah,
but the DC
absolutely.
animated films are far better than the Marvel animated films.
And the animated shows as well are
And the
far
animated
better.
shows, absolutely like no contest.
Yeah,
Um, when it gets right down to it, I think I like Marvel slightly better
yeah.
because I think I
Because
just like the heroes a little bit better
yeah, I
in
would say this
concept.
because this is also films. We're probably basing this more on which version of the films you prefer more, which at this point I think for you is more
Oh, Marvel.
obviously Marvel. Yeah.
Yeah.
Whereas for me, while I like Marvel films, I just find the fact that I've grown up with DC characters, I've grown up watching their shows, I've
Yeah.
grown up knowing a lot of them, and I never knew any Marvel characters till the Marvel films came out.
Really.
That's the reason why. Yeah. Well, actually, no. I knew Hulk and Spider Man, but that was it. I didn't know Iron Man, didn't know Captain America. May have heard his name thrown around, but that was it.
Yeah. To be fair,
But
I weirdly enough grew up in kind of an area where most comic book heroes weren't really a thing. Like most
yeah,
people knew Spider-Man because of the films.
yeah.
X-Men was a film, but like no one really knew too much about it. Superman, everyone had a Superman hat without really caring. Like
Yeah.
I think when I went to middle school, everyone liked Batman because everyone was so into the Dark Knight and
Dark and
everything,
gritty.
which I actually didn't like. I liked Batman Begins a lot, but Dark Knight I liked initially because of the hype, but then I kind of grew out of it, so I was
Yeah.
kind of meh
That's fair.
over it. And
Yeah.
then at some point, I don't know why, but like no, I remember why, but I'd rather not say on stream because it's slightly too embarrassing. But basically, Spider Man became more of a big thing for me, and through that I went more the Marvel route. Um, because the DC stuff wasn't really like, oh come on.
I will ask you about this afterwards.
And so basically,
Not on stream.
the first ever time that I went to see Avengers Assemble in theaters
Yeah.
was probably the first time that I really felt to myself, I want to make films.
That's
So
fair.
that has a special place in my heart. And then
That's pretty
Guardians of the
fair.
Galaxy, first time I saw it in theaters, it instantly became my favorite film ever.
Yeah.
Which it's 2021 now, so 7 years on almost, it still is.
Yeah.
So Marvel just has a, you know,
Because yeah, it has that place for you in your heart,
yeah,
which is the reason why ultimately I'd say because you went for neither and I've gone for both, and I sort of
yeah.
think that's an interesting thing to go into. Because
I mean,
for
you look at my
me,
list as well, and it's not very surprising as well because you see Joss Whedon all over this thing. He made the film that made me want to make films. It's not very
yeah,
surprising.
exactly, yeah, that's not surprising. But I think the other thing is as well for me, and why I always acknowledge people. Most of the DC films, especially all the ones made by Snyder, not that good, if terrible. But at the
Yes.
same time, I always have people. I watch them and love them because they're guilty pleasure. Because I grew up with Batman, I grew up with Superman, I grew up with the Justice League.
Yeah.
I love. I can't put emphasis on how much, in fact, I think back on it and how much I appreciate and love the Justice League animated series.
Absolutely.
And in the end, I watch these and think they weren't done well, but I'll always tell people I like them because it's the first time seeing my favorite superheroes ever on screen together. Because I'm not as much of a fine line between for you because while I think Marvel movies are better, I will always love DC
Fair enough.
regardless. So I
Fair
think
enough.
that's the reason why I've gone with both.
Cool. Do we have anything
Other,
else to say? I think other isn't really like a vote or anything. It's just like space for us to say something that may have not come up.
I don't think there's much. I think we actually covered it.
I think we covered most of it. I think.
Yeah. The only thing I could think of, and
Mhm.
it's a minor thing, is the end credit sequence. And weirdly, obviously, Whedon wins that one because Snyder didn't have an end credit sequence, an
Yes,
after
because he
credit
had them
sequence.
all before the credits, which was
He had
incredibly
it called
jarring.
the prologue.
But this is the
I
thing,
didn't
like,
get that.
sorry,
He had it called the prologue.
epilogue.
I will the epilogue, sorry, not prologue, yeah,
Yeah.
epilogue. So, got that.
Who puts a prologue at the end of their film?
I don't know. Fuck, it wouldn't
A
surprise me if
very
Snyder
confused
did.
man.
It wouldn't surprise me
Oh
if
yeah,
Snyder did. This
yeah.
film was all just a prologue to what is coming. It
It
wouldn't.
was May
I'll say this:
7th, 1942, and
the
I stepped into
moment
the
is
chamber.
said, the moment I'll say this, I had a massive issue with the Snyder Cut is when it said Chapter One. I thought, oh my god, he thinks he's Tarantino.
Yep.
That first thing that went through my mind is like, someone
Yeah,
should call Zack and
the
tell him he's
chapters
not
didn't make any sense.
Tarantino.
The chapters didn't make any sense as well because in terms of time they were completely unequal. The
And the
epilogue
title,
was 20 minutes long.
no,
Uh
the chapter thing made no
yeah.
sense.
Also the
It didn't
epilogue as
work.
well was just a collection of like deleted
Random
scenes
sequences, yeah,
and post-credit scenes which they're post-credit scenes for a reason. Like
yeah,
because they're not really part of the film. They're part of
and
whatever
they're
comes
not that
next.
important enough to,
They really aren't.
yeah, yeah,
Especially like all of this set. Let me tell you this: all of this setup, when he's already said there's not going to be a part 2 unless Warner Brothers wants one. Like, there's currently no plans for a part
It
2 to this
feels
film.
like blackmail because he's put it all in
Yeah,
to get fans really excited, so that way they'll demand Warner Brothers make it.
it's pointless to me. I
And
don't see
here's
a
the
point.
thing: fat chance they are, but Warner Brothers, if you're watching this, one thing you should do is say, "Fine, we'll give him what he wants. You can make your Justice League Part 2 and Part 3 scenario. Yes, but you're going to get a budget of $50 million. What, mate? Your films aren't doing well enough at the cinema for us to justify giving you $500 million for maybe not
Yeah,
50. Fine, we'll give you 100 to 150
like,
million.
bro, you
A standard big budget film budget.
you blew $400 million on this,
Yeah,
right?
and it
Infinity
made us,
War cost $300 million to make. Infinity War.
and it made over $1 billion. And none of your films have done that. Not even Batman versus Superman made over $1 billion, which we were promised it would, which we thought it and hoped it would. It didn't.
It didn't.
And here's the thing: if Snyder said, "Oh, but the fans want it," simply put, Warburg, you have to realize the fans don't give a shit. It's Snyder fans that want this shit. It's not true. Biggest issues we both had with the fans saying, "Oh, the average or neutral comic book reader will love this film." No, they will fucking despise it because the neutral comic book reader will know the Justice League and will
Yeah,
know their characteristics. They will watch this, and as we can see here, we preferred Whedon pretty much overall, and they will go,
yeah.
"Man, did Snyder butcher most of those characters."
Well, you know what the problem is with, I think, modern fandom is, I think when we grew up still, we were still kind of part of that generation where, like, liking comic books and comic book characters and stuff like that was still a little bit shunned. Like,
Yeah,
people thought you were stupid if you liked that stuff and whatever.
or a massive nerd and
Yeah.
a pathetic loser.
And
Yeah,
I think nowadays we have a generation where
they've grown up with.
people are stupid if they don't like this stuff, almost. Like,
Yeah,
it's become so normalized. I
yeah,
think there's an in between kind of section of, like, people from our generation probably still, who are so used to the fact that it's not normalized, that they still
yeah.
think that they are different for liking all these things.
That they're
Right.
going to be ridiculed
Yeah.
in a
And so
weird way for
basically,
liking
like
anything.
like basically if someone says the neutral comic book lover or whatever, they think to themselves, "Oh, my D&D group that I hang out with, like, every now and then, like, these 5 people in the entire world that like superhero stuff and comic book stuff, and no one else." And it's like, "No, dude, there's a world out there. Like,
There's
like,
there's a yeah,
wake up
because
and smell what The Rock is cooking. There's a whole world out there
yeah,
of comic book films with The Rock soon."
actually, I will say this in terms of other. There is one category I could think of, which is overall attempt to feel more like DC.
Yeah.
Whedon's feels more like DC than Snyder's. Snyder does, but only if it was Batman, and it's not just Batman.
Snyder's
Batman
film
actually, yeah,
Snyder's film feels like a Snyder film. Whedon's
yeah,
film feels like a superhero film.
yeah, that's true. Yeah.
Do you know what? Fuck it. I'm changing my answer here.
You're going back to Whedon?
Whedon. Overall experience, Whedon, because
Yeah,
of that statement I just made. Whedon's film feels like a superhero film, and Snyder's
it
film
does.
feels like a
It's not a
Snyder film.
great superhero film, but it
It
feels like a
serves its
superhero film.
purpose, and I still
Yeah,
think, in terms of all of the DCU films that are out, that one is downright average, which is a huge compliment. That's actually not true, because since then Wonder Woman 84 has come out, and that one is now average for me. So this one is slightly below average.
yeah, I'd agree with you on that. That I
Yeah,
actually 100% get behind.
because there's only, like, what, 7 of them out right now?
Well, Wonder Woman, Wonder Woman
Yeah.
84, Aquaman,
So
Justice League,
for me right now, if I remember
AVS.
correctly, how many there are? No, actually
Because
no, there's more, because I forgot Suicide Squad
oh,
and
Suicide
Birds of
Squad
Prey
and
even.
Birds of Prey.
I forgot those
Then what?
existed. They're not even in the equation for me. So no,
Because
sorry. Justice League is still, like, the middle for me.
here's the issue I will say. Because the one I think you're including, because what for me it's Aquaman, both the Wonder Woman films,
Yeah.
Man of Steel,
Mhm.
BVS,
Mhm.
Justice League, Birds of Prey, Suicide Squad. Because the ninth one you would include, I wouldn't. Is Shazam, and here's my reason. Shazam is my favorite, but at the same time, it doesn't feel like it fits within the universe. And I honestly don't see Snyder including Shazam into his universe.
Which is his miss.
It is a massive misstep and big mistake on his part. But because I look at Shazam, it's like that's a superhero film. It's hopeful, it's inspirational, has great action
Yep.
sequences, it's funny, there's drama, there's growth. It has everything it needs to make you realize this is a good superhero
Yeah,
film.
but it is confirmed part of the universe.
It
More than
is.
anything because Superman's in it, so it counts for me.
Because
Also,
here's the
can I just say, the director of that film was pretty much the only director that didn't say that Zack Snyder's cut is canon. He has not said a word.
yeah. And I have this because this is the thing. Because what Snyder had a hand in both the creation of Aquaman and Wonder Woman because they were both in BVS. They
Yes.
were already in a pre-existing DC film. Whereas Shazam, he had no control,
Yeah.
no decision, nothing. And I
Yeah.
think for that reason alone, at some point he's going to come and say, "Oh yeah, Shazam's not part of the universe because he just doesn't fit."
Yeah, that's
In other words,
bullying.
which I think because part of it is it's an ego thing. Oh, and then you would ask him behind closed doors, "Why is that?" Oh, because I wasn't asked, I wasn't consulted with Shazam. They didn't ask me whether or not it was the correct decisions they made. It
Yeah.
wouldn't surprise me if he takes that shot.
So
We both agree at this point Snyder's a baby.
if that happens, my ranking for cinematic universes in terms of superheroes goes the DC Extended Universe, and then Marvel Cinematic Universe, and on top, the Shazam Cinematic Universe. Hell yeah, boy!
Just to fuck with him, just to give him the big.
Because that's gonna have Shazam, and then Shazam 2, and then Black Adam, and then Shazam versus Black Adam. You know, it's gonna have all the good shit. It's gonna have The Rock in it. How can it not win?
Yeah, I will say it's looking. Sorry, I'm gonna look it up. Shazam film. It didn't gross a huge amount of money, but it also didn't cost that much from what I can
The
recall.
thing is, it didn't cost a lot of money because the guy who made
They did,
it
yeah,
is first of all an indie horror filmmaker, so he knows where
yeah.
to cut corners proficiently, and second of all is a YouTuber these days as well. I actually
There
follow
you
him
go.
on YouTube. He makes great fucking videos because they're all about like, filmmaking tips, and like how he particularly like uses
Okay,
assets,
yeah,
writing things as well.
yeah.
Seriously, I think his YouTube channel is called Pony Smasher. Check it out; it's fucking great.
I will. Actually, no, definitely I will. I will say this because here's the thing. It was probably in terms of how much money it made. I think it was actually compared to the budget, it was one of the more successful ones.
Oh, I'm sure.
And the thing is, looking at the way critics reacted, because we both looked at the IMDb for it and we both thought, no, IMDb got that
No, it
stuff
deserves
fucking
higher.
wrong. It got 7 out of 10. Whereas Rotten Tomatoes actually got it pretty much on the fucking
Yeah,
mark. Because I think fans gave it like basically 85%.
I think it was 90 even.
No, it was 82.
82.
But the actual
Well, yeah,
critics gave it 90%.
yeah.
The overall.
I would personally give it a 9.5 because
Yeah.
I honestly like there's so little about it that I don't like.
Yeah. Yeah. There's so little in that film that's not
Yeah.
good. But here's the thing, it wouldn't surprise me if that's what Snyder would want. Basically say Shazam because he wasn't consulted, it doesn't fit his aesthetic or his feel, it's just not
Then
included. But it
yeah,
wouldn't surprise me.
he wasn't consulted. Look where it ended up now at the top of the
It's one
ranks.
of the best, and in terms of actual, budget to gross to money, it did one of the best. But here's
Yeah,
the thing, it wouldn't surprise me if then Warner Bros. Said, if we're giving you your Snyderverse, you're including Shazam. Because
well they
that's
have to.
it's gonna have The Rock, which is a big fucking moneymaker actor.
Hmm.
And more importantly, here's the thing. I don't think you're gonna like this, Zach. Critics wise, they loved it. Fans wise, they loved it. And it did something most of your films have failed to do for us thus far, which is make us money.
Yeah, make the money back that we've spent on your useless endeavors.
And then a bit more. It made a bit
Also,
more so on
also,
top.
why would you not have the guy from Chuck? I mean, it's a win-win in my book.
Yeah,
Get the guy from Chuck and you win.
man.
More like Chuck as an Oscar, am I right? Hey, now get on that, Zack.
Yeah.
As in Zachary Levi. Get in Zack Snyder's film. Let's get on that. That's
Because
maybe
here's the
why.
thing.
Maybe that's why, because he doesn't want to compete with another Zack for like
He doesn't
attention.
want He doesn't want the Marvel issue where there's 3 Chris's on set at the same time. But, because here's the other thing, because now I'm just thinking, like I'm thinking more of the Whedon cut, though, weirdly, of the dynamic in the team, where
Yeah,
Shazam shows up and Superman's like, "Oh, yeah, here's Shazam. He's a good kid. He's gonna be working with us." And then Shazam's like, "Oh, yeah, hey, guys." And then Flash and him were like, "Hey, hey, hey, hey. Oh, we're buddies now."
yeah.
And they'll just do that awkward fist bump thing, and
I
Aquaman's
can
gonna
now
be like,
see if he comes into Whedon's like dynamic, Batman would just kind of grunt and then walk away.
"Oh, absolutely.
Whereas in Zack
Absolutely.
Snyder's cut, he would just go like, "Show me what you got, kid,"
Yeah.
or like something like
Show
that.
us what you can do."
Yeah,
Making this face the whole time. I'm Batman.
yeah. And I think
Oh,
Aquaman will constantly try to get him like to say his own name. Um, Whereas in the Snyder cut,
"Hey,
he's
what's your
just
name?" He's just gonna be
yeah,
like poking him. "What's your name? What's your name? What's your name?
yeah.
What's your name?"
And in Snyder's version, he'd probably just go like, "Another Superman. Great.
Great.
I'll go
We
home then."
both. I don't know how Wonder Woman and Whedon's would be so mentoring as well. She'd be
Yeah,
cuddling him and going, "You can do great. You do well." And then Wonder Woman's would be like, "You're not a warrior. You're not a soldier. You're not all these things. You need to
yeah.
be more like us." I feel like this is going to be coming.
Yeah. I think in the Whedon version, it would be slightly more, sexually
Here's
tinted.
here's the thing. I would say is I think Joss Whedon would be a safer pair of hands to give this whole universe to lead into the future. He
Yeah,
generally would. But at the same time, considering the fans and just how shitty they've been, that's not going to happen,
no. I
which is a
think
real big letdown.
yeah. I think we're
Yeah.
coming towards the end of this
Yep.
podcast. If you want numbers, then let me go through numbers real quick. So, in total, you have voted for Joss Whedon's cut. Hang on. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. You voted for Whedon's cut 8 times. And I'm including when you voted for both as one vote for this
Yeah.
person.
Yeah.
Zack Snyder's cut, you voted for 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 times.
So pretty much just
So
pretty
pretty much
50
equal,
50.
but a slight preference for Joss Whedon.
Yeah.
And in 3 cases, you've said you like neither.
Yeah.
In my
Which,
case, I have said once that I like neither, which is Steppenwolf, because I felt very indifferent about him.
fair
For
enough.
Zack Snyder, I have voted a total of 3 times. Whedon's
I
cut,
forget, did you not like Zack Snyder's
I don't think I did. Whedon's cut, I gave him, well, that's 6,
one?
7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13 votes. So I think my preference is very much there.
Yeah,
Um,
pretty obvious.
yeah, truthfully, I think the the main takeaway of it, I think, is obviously we have different experiences from the film because you
Yeah.
probably want different things from the film, mostly because you're more of a DC guy. I'm more of a kind of in between, but nudging towards Marvel guy.
Yeah.
So obviously the things that I want from these films, I mean, it's obvious because we've discussed this before. When I like a film, I'm let's put it this way: I'm more likely to like Batman 66 rather than The Dark Knight.
Yeah. You don't like the super gritty stuff
Yeah, because
that
I feel
much,
like
which
superheroes are meant to be inspiring
it's
to us. I
yeah,
think that they're meant to have like
I
something that we can
on
actually like model
yeah.
ourselves after in a way.
On a random note, I just watched the most recent episode of Superman and Lois, and I bring this up for a reason as to
Sure.
why we've talked about all these things. There's a great scene in the recent episode, not many spoilers, but basically Clark goes to put out a fire in a building.
Okay.
And the very next scene where he's talking to Lois, he says the most Superman thing ever. He says, "If I'd got there sooner, I could have saved more things."
That is very Superman.
You, and that ultimately is why I think looking at this show, I think this, because I know for a fact we're not going to get any more Whedon, despite the fact that we both talked about and agreed we'd love
No,
to
I
see a
think
J.J.
I think
Abrams
he
Superman.
might have been indicted during the old like Me Too situation.
Really?
I think there was something against him as well. To be fair,
Well,
there was something against pretty much everyone. So
at this point, yeah,
at this
there's
point,
something
it's safe
against
to assume. Um,
everyone.
yeah,
Where, yeah, because I think the thing is, So, but as I was saying, we're probably never, despite the fact we both agreed he'd be a great person to do it, a J.J. Abrams Superman film.
Absolutely.
And Snyder is not a good choice for Superman in any way, shape, or form.
No.
Ultimately, for that reason alone, I think, thank God I've got Superman and Lois, because that actually feels like Superman. The color you probably wouldn't like, there's not a huge amount of color, but the feel of the fact that he feels like a hero is there.
Yep. I think that's important.
I think it's more important to get the feel rather than the color. The color is a
The
very
color
big
helps though.
step.
The color
The
helps.
color does help,
Like
but I think so long as they can get the character right, I think I can forgive
I
the color.
agree, but like when it comes to color, it is way more psychological than you're giving it credit for.
Oh no, I completely agree, but
Yeah. Again, I will refer back to the Man of Steel restored version.
yeah,
Genuinely, it makes a huge amount of it. In fact, I would even go as to say like I put Joss Whedon down a couple of times because I had to think about it and I got to that conclusion. But my immediate response is Joss Whedon immediately, just for the fact that the score was way more uplifting and the colors were more inspiring to me.
yeah,
Those two things already make a huge difference to the entire
yeah.
experience of the film. And yes, I know I sound like a child by saying that, where it's like, color and
Pretty
noises,
colors.
pretty, pretty colors, pretty noises.
Yeah, but
But at the same time, it's psychological that way. This is
yeah,
why overall, like if you compare Batman vs Superman to um, Captain America: Civil War, Captain America: Civil War has a more like grand soundtrack that is really like making the thing feel
yeah,
more gravity. Whereas with
yeah,
Batman vs Superman, it's just like dark, brooding,
yeah.
no
But actually,
violence.
no. Going, I think thinking actually about the Superman and Lois thing, I think actually no, what I was saying wasn't true because there is actually quite a bit of color. I think the suit's a
Yeah,
bit darker than I would like it, but like it's
that's
it's
fine.
certainly brighter than Man of Steel.
Yeah,
But the reason it's darker, and I think it's actually more of a storytelling choice, is they're in Smallville, and Smallville's kind of run down, and there's like a shadow cast over it from an evil plot and the fact that it's a town on the
well that's
last of its
fine then.
legs. So I think the color is dim to make it seem like, oh, this town is not as, because actually recent episode there were flashback sequences to when Clark was a kid. The colors popped a bit more, showing that I
Yeah,
think that was when Smallville was at its peak, whereas now it's on rough times. So I think
yeah.
maybe it's more for
But also, like
storytelling.
I remember
Yeah,
what the suit looked like from a handful of Supergirl episodes, and it looked just fine. Maybe a bit
they changed
weird
the
on the
suit.
actor.
They changed the suit slightly,
Oh, okay, fine.
but
Is
it
it
still works.
darker? Is it darker than the Red Sun Superman outfit? Because that one is pretty weird, kind of dark grayish blue color, midnight blue actually. I think the name is.
Red Sun, I thought it was just gray.
It was like a grayish blue kind of thing.
But no, it doesn't look anything like that.
Okay, good,
It
good.
looks a little bit more like Man of Steel, but slightly more, weirdly, still slightly more Superman.
Fair enough. No, I know what you
But
mean.
yeah,
I know what
yeah,
you mean.
but yeah. We'll wrap it up there.
We'll work it up
Ultimately,
there.
so far, DC in terms of shows and films they're putting out there. Films, they're very much hit and miss.
Yeah,
Shows, they're all slightly going down now, but they've got one good one thus far, at least for me. For you, it's they've got one good one slowly because you like the fun of it.
yeah.
Yeah.
I
But
mean, the
anyway,
main, the main. I mean, honestly, this is the longest episode that we've done so far. It's practically, it's longer than the Whedon cut. It's you might as well just watch this
I
instead of the
was
Zack
about to
Snyder cut
say,
at this
are
point.
we? This is our Snyder
This
cut.
is
This
our
one.
Snyder cut of episodes. Basically, like if you're still here and you want advice on whether it's worth like even after all the spoilers, which you probably know if you've seen the original version anyway.
Yeah.
Is it worth watching the Zack Snyder cut? I think if you're truly like into superheroes and you want to have an opinion about it, then yeah, if you've got 4 hours to spare.
Yeah.
But what I will say is that with Whedon's cut, I do think that it should probably have an extended cut because there's a couple of things that just needed to breathe a little bit more, and some scenes
Yeah.
that
I
need to be
think
cut
if
out and
if
stuff like
Whedon
that.
was given more breathing
Yeah,
room,
if
um,
if that's
it
what
would
you're
have been
looking
better.
for in the Snyder cut, that ain't it. It's a completely different cut. Like for the most part, there's a lot of things kept similar, but like a lot of motivations have changed. A lot of characters behave differently.
Yeah.
A lot of beats are completely different. Like a lot of beats are just added in. Um, it's a completely different feel. It's honestly just a different film. So I wouldn't say don't watch it. I would
Sorry,
say don't get your hopes up. Don't read the
yeah.
reviews. Don't see it as, you know, this
If you're
is
going to
just,
watch it, you should watch because that way you can form your own opinion of it.
yeah.
But
And
don't go in with an opinion already of it in mind. Go in with it with a blank slate.
yeah, because
That way,
weirdly, I would say for Snyder fans, if they were gonna watch this film, they would they would latch onto their confirmation bias
yeah, of
rather
course.
than be
Which most of them
disappointed.
have already.
If you're not a Zack Snyder fan and you have high hopes for this film, you might get slightly disappointed.
Yeah.
If you are a Zack Snyder fan and you genuinely think this is going to be like the best film that Snyder has ever made or best DC film that's ever made since The Dark Knight, your confirmation bias will tell you that it is, regardless
Yeah.
of what you actually feel about the film. Um,
Sorry, I'm
and
just writing up a petition to have the Whedon cut released.
yeah, absolutely, put my signature under it immediately. Um,
Got two
and
fans, and so far
yeah,
we've proven that's enough, I think, at
and
this point.
I will say as well, there's this guy on YouTube called Moist Critical, which I like. I've liked him for several years. Been following him off and on, and he has this series called Moist Meter, where he's like reviewing stuff. I
Yeah, I
find
think
myself often agreeing with him, but this review that he had for this Zack Snyder cut, I thought was a bit unfortunate because
I think there's also
he did go that way.
I think there are two things playing into this in the psychology I don't think even most people are aware of. I think it's herd mentality.
It is absolutely,
Secondly, it's stick your finger to the big man, the $1 billion corporation man, which is Warner Brothers. They
yeah,
basically
which is kind of a trend these days, but it's
because
not a
yeah,
good one.
I think there's certain times where it's justified, like with EA,
Yeah,
but Warner Brothers is not EA.
yeah, and also this is not a Spartacus situation.
And you have to remember as well, Warner Bros. The studio most of you seem to be hating on right now, they have given you Harry Potter, they have given you Lord of the Rings, they gave you The Dark Knight.
Yeah.
They've given you so many films you've all enjoyed.
Plus, it's really irrational to stick it to a studio because it's like these are just people doing a job.
Yeah.
Like,
And all they're doing is, yes, they're trying to make money, but the basis of them making money is whether or not other people will enjoy what they give them.
and clearly they do.
Yeah.
So
So,
next time if someone says, "Oh, you know what, we should really stick to Warner Brothers," I'm gonna say to them, "Look, tomorrow you better lock your office because I'm gonna go over there. I'm gonna take a shit on your desk because I don't like you, and I don't like the things that you do. So I'm gonna take a shit on your desk. You better lock your. It doesn't really matter actually. I'm just gonna throw down your door and take a shit on your desk. I'm gonna make sure not to go now for 24 hours. Make sure that it's a real big one. Bran flakes. I'm gonna consume bran flakes.
I'm also going to eat a shit ton of Taco Bell
Oh, absolutely. But
and
like,
Indian.
I'm gonna order in Taco Bell like in front of the building, eat it there real quick, and then go into the room, and then I'm gonna shit it all out on top of your desk
This is
because
the
simply
extended plan. You have Indian the night before, and no
yes,
matter how much you urgently need to shit, you hold that
I'm
fucker
holding
in.
it all the way through, even if it
And
means I
when
can't
you get to the
sleep.
building, you get to the building, you then order the Taco Bell and eat it there.
Yes,
That way it
absolutely.
piles up even more. But you wait an hour, that way it digests a little bit and you need to
Absolutely,
shit.
yeah, yeah, yeah. And then maybe pop some laxatives,
I was
just
about to
to
say,
really get the juices flowing. Um, because for the simple
no
fact
one's
that I
telling
don't really like what you do. Yeah,
anymore.
I think you have too much power. I don't really like you as a person, and I think you deserve this.
It's not going to be a log as well. It's going to be a wet one.
Oh,
Big, wet
oh,
diarrhea.
it I to say wet one is kind of accurate because it's probably gonna be over the course of a while, but it kind of blends together once it's all out there. And with a bit of bad luck, it's actually gonna be multicolored. Anyway, uh, yeah, I'm done. Anyway, it's absolutely ridiculous to stick it to the big corporations by saying, "Oh, fuck you, we're going to demand anything you want because we are the ones in charge because we're the ones actually watching your films.
Yeah,
It's kind of immature.
just remember this, guys. Also, we've made this argument before with Disney. You hate the Star Wars universe they produced, but you all love the Marvel universe, which
Yep.
they also gave you. So, simply put, studios are like anything. They have hits and they have misses. Sometimes they get it right, sometimes they get it wrong. And I think on this case, Warner Brothers have gotten it wrong, but they've now dug themselves into
Yeah.
the grave and they don't know how to get out of it.
Do you know what?
So,
You know what I will say? If fans can get Zack Snyder to make his original Justice League cut, I think we can start a petition to make Ryan Reynolds Green Lantern again. I think we can do this, guys, because let's be honest, that Green Lantern film, I
not
think it was the writer's strike. It was the writer's strike. I think the film could have been better, right? If the writers were actually allowed to write and could actually come up with these things. If someone competent would actually direct it. And Ryan Reynolds wasn't the problem. No, he was actually the thing that made it work. The film itself wasn't even that bad. I actually really
uh,
liked the film. So
yeah.
let's just get it made. Let's just get a sequel for this film and then work him into the Snyderverse. Because as you may know, in the DC extended universe, that film is my favorite. Like I led you to think it was Shazam before. I only gave Shazam a 9.5, but Green Lantern got a 10 for me.
And it works because it's Hal Jordan and then there's Barry Allen, so it shouldn't even be John Stewart. So
There you
there you
go.
go,
There you go.
perfection.
There you
And I
go.
think actually, weirdly, Ryan Reynolds and Ezra Miller would have a great chemistry. Actually, the more and more I think about it,
Oh well, that's unfair to say because Ryan Reynolds just has great chemistry with pretty much anyone.
that's true. He has great chemistry with a plank of wood, and it's a plank of wood.
Yeah.
Yeah, but yeah,
Anyway, on that note, I think we should wrap up because, good God, I think the only reason why I've been able to. How are you doing? I've been able to keep up because of my coffee. I don't know about you.
I'm exhausted.
Fair enough. Then we will leave it there. Thank you very much for
Maybe
watching.
afraid. Yeah,
Next week we're gonna go back to the original 1 hour format.
yeah.
Um,
We just have to
hopefully,
get this out of the way. We'll probably talk about Winter
absolutely
Soldier and Falcon a bit, and just probably
yes, because that one is actually worth your time.
that is worth your time. It is
Yes.
very good so far.
So
Anyway,
thank you very much and goodbye.
bye bye.